Chapter 173. Luli, let me ask you, what are we going to do down the mountain this time? Eat, drink, and be merry. Guess again? Eat all over the 9 regions? Continue to guess? Are all my guesses wrong? Nonsense, of course not. In the face of Wang Lu's roar, Luli innocently blinked her eyes. How could this be? We clearly said it's to eat, drink, and be merry. Wang Lu unceremoniously reached out and knocked the girl's head, ignoring the fact that Luli entered the sect earlier than him and was essentially his senior sister. Before we went down the mountain, I actually said it once, and now I repeat it for the second time. Listen, we have 3 things to do when we go down the mountain. The first is to send a letter to my master. She has a good friend in the Grand Cloud Mountain of Cloud region, and I want to give this letter to her. The second is to record what we see and hear along the way to increase our experience, broaden our horizons, and quench our primordial spirit and immortal heart. The third is to find a way to pick a fight, collect prestige, and open the sect's title as soon as possible. Then along the way we can eat, drink, and be merry, living a free and unrestrained life. But you only remember the last sentence? Luli pursed her mouth. The first part is too complicated, I don't understand it at all. Forget it, just remember one thing. Whatever I tell you to do, do it. Seeing that Luli was no longer making a fuss, Wang Lu sighed with emotion that after 5 years, Luli was still the same as before. He took out a bag of marinated beef cubes from his mustard seed bag and threw it to the girl as a reward for being obedient. Luli giggled, opened the paper bag and began to eat non-stop, which made the mottled dog endlessly envious. They were both humans' best friends, but this disparity in treatment was really heartbreaking. Luli was even more proud of herself. She swaggeringly licked the minced meat and salt on her fingers. Her scallion-like fingers were immediately stained with a layer of crystal. Her expression of enjoying the delicious food made the stupid dog salivate uncontrollably. However, after eating half of the bag, Luli carefully put away the beef cubes, no longer greedy. Seeing this, Wang Lu curiously asked, "Why don't you eat it?" Luli very seriously replied, "If I eat it now, I won't be able to eat it later." Wang Lu was amused. "What kind of logic is that? Why can't I eat it in the future?" Master said, "When the disciples of Spirit Sword sect go down the mountain for experiential learning, they must seriously experience the sufferings of the world of mortals, they must not covet extravagance. In any case, the last time I went down the mountain, I was always hungry, and the spirit stones and silver that Master gave me were all spent in no time." "How many spirit stones and silver did Martial Uncle give you?" Fortunately, Luli wasn't stupid enough to count with her fingers. She quickly replied, 5,000 taels of silver, 300 spirit stones. Objectively speaking, Zhou Ming wasn't stingy. With Lu Li's peak chi refining stage cultivation base at that time, she didn't need to spend that much. 5,000 silvers and 300 spirit stones were enough to support her life for several years. However, it was the first time that Lu Li went down the mountain, so she didn't know about moderation, nor did she understand the price of goods. In a bustling capital city's imperial banquet restaurant, she ate all kinds of delicacies. In just a few days, her traveling expenses were completely exhausted, and she had no choice but to swallow her saliva and dejectedly leave. In the following year, she really experienced a lot of hardships. Listening to Lu Li reminiscing about the bitterness and thinking about the sweetness, and how she treasured a bag of beef cubes, Wang Lu could see that this child had really suffered a lot the last time she went down the mountain. She already had a psychological shadow in her heart when she went down the mountain for experiential learning. He couldn't help but laugh and pat the girl's head. "This time, since you're going down the mountain with me, you don't need to worry too much. Martial Uncle entrusted you to me not to let you starve here." Luli was actually puzzled. This time, when she went down the mountain, the traveling expenses that her master gave her were not as much as the last time. And Wang Lu. Nanfei's Peak has always been famous for its poverty. However, while the girl was still confused, she suddenly saw a silvery light coming from the horizon, and its target was exactly her and Wang Lu. At this time, they had just left the boundary of the Spirit Sword Mountain, but they didn't know who would come looking for them. Lu Li's eyes turned and immediately swept a glance at that rapid and hazy silvery light. It was actually something that was recorded in the Teng Cloud Hall's Book of Strange Objects. Cloud Wave Boat was a commonly used flying vehicle by cultivators nowadays. Its speed was extremely fast and the flying process was smooth and comfortable, thus it was quite popular. However, this silver flying boat was 100 times more luxurious than the one in the textbook. Even Lu Li knew how precious the layer of refined silver cloud on its surface was. Moreover, its flying speed was faster and smoother than what was recorded in the textbook. The girl's sword heart sensed that the flying boat was not hostile, so she withdrew her gaze and ignored it. No matter how good the flying boat was in any case, it couldn't be used as an entrance. However, a moment later the flying boat descended from the sky and stopped in front of the two of them. From the silver boat, a white-clothed cultivator slowly walked out and respectfully saluted in front of Wang Lu. "Greetings, Mr. Director." Wang Lu smiled. "Old Yi, long time no see, your cultivation has improved a lot." The one who came down from the flying boat was the Wisdom Sect's Vice Sect Leader, Intelligence Revenue Services Deputy Director Yi Chuchen. It had been nearly 8 years since Wang Lu annexed the 7-Star Sect with the Wisdom Sect's Sect Leader. At that time, the 7-Star Sect Leader had completely adapted to the Vice Sect Leader's identity. Now that he thought about it, Yi Chuchen's heart was filled with endless gratitude when he was defeated by Wang Lu and then incorporated into the sect. If not for Wang Lu, he would just be a low-level loose cultivator. Now, although the Wisdom Sect was still the most junior sect in the Wanxian League, his identity and status had undergone earth-shaking changes. And as a cultivator, he had gained too many benefits. First, when Wang Lu perfected the cultivation method for him, the bottleneck that had shackled him for many years suddenly disappeared. Second, as the Wisdom Sect's Vice Sect Leader, he had countless privileges. With a large number of resources, it would be difficult for his cultivation not to advance by leaps and bounds. After a few years, although his cultivation level had only advanced by 1 level, for a person with mediocre aptitude like him, advancing another level in the Shudan stage was more than just a step further. Moreover, his comprehensive strength had doubled. When they first met as the 7-Star Sect Leader, Yi Chuchen was just a level 9 Shudan -3 dregs. But now he was an 8th level Shudan Xiaoming, which was equivalent to advancing by 4 levels in 8 years, advancing by leaps and bounds. If he didn't have to deal with the sect's affairs, which involved a lot of energy, his achievement could be even higher. All of this, of course, was thanks to Wang Lu. Therefore, Yi Chuchen had long been loyal and devoted to Wang Lu, even if in recent years Wang Lu had been concentrating on cultivating in the Spirit Sword Mountain and had increasingly let go of the sect's affairs. "Mr. Director, as soon as I received your instruction, I immediately came here. Moreover, according to your instruction, I brought you this custom-made Cloud Wave boat, Cloud Wave 2000. With that, Yi Chuchen chanted an incantation. That 30 feet long, completely black flying boat opened an entrance, revealing the inside of the boat. Looking from the entrance, the inside was unexpectedly vast, far more spacious than it looked. Lu Li's eyes immediately widened, thinking that this was completely different from what was written in the book. The book said that the Cloud Wave boat was easy to use and had a high performance-to-price ratio. However, the flying space was narrow, and the cultivators were often extremely uncomfortable. But now it seemed like that was completely wrong. Seeing Lu Li's puzzled expression, Wang Lu smiled and explained, "This is the local tyrant version of the Cloud Wave boat that I asked my men to go to the mysterious Sky Mansion's overseas Chinese crafts hall to customize. Inside the boat, there is a separate immortal cave which has all the necessary tools. Come on, let's go inside first." Upon entering the flying boat, the girl's heart was even more shocked. It turned out that the inside of the boat was not only the hall that she could see from the entrance. Along the edge of the hall, there were also stairs leading to the top and bottom. Who knew how many rooms were hidden inside? In the girl's incomparable astonishment, Yi Chuchen once again chanted the incantation to close the entrance. The flying boat soared into the air, but the inside of the boat was stable without a trace of shaking. After starting the flying boat, Yi Chuchen said to Wang Lu, "Unfortunately, the craftsmen of the 3rd rank and above in the Heavenly Crafts Hall are not here. Therefore, the immortal cave inside the boat can only be done to this extent. You said that the landscape, grass and trees, as well as the singing and dancing puppets can't be realized. This subordinate is incompetent, please forgive me, Mr. Director." Wang Lu went straight to the lounge chair in the hall and then waved his hand. "No problem. To be able to do this in just 10 days is already not bad. After all, we're not supreme customers, so we haven't spent enough points. Later on, if there's an opportunity, we'll just make do with it." With that, Wang Lu looked at Lu Li, who was curiously exploring around the boat, and then said with a smile, "Old Yi, take out the prepared dishes." "Yes." Before long, a table of luxurious dishes was served. Lu Li, who was crazily running upstairs and downstairs, was immediately attracted. She incredulously looked at the dishes in the hall. Heavenly fragrant rain dew, vermilion jade 5 flowers, emerald cabbage, mysterious iced cheese. Previously in the Imperial Feast restaurant, Lu Li had never seen such luxurious dishes. Was this real? Even with her brilliant sword heart's clear temperament, she still couldn't extricate herself from this incomparable shock. In just a moment of daze, Lu Li couldn't help but continuously swallow her saliva. Wang Lu laughed. "What are you staring at? This is for you to eat." Really? Wang Lu picked up a piece of fat and tender lamb chop and threw it to the stupid dog, which then swallowed it in one bite. "If you don't want to eat, there's no more." I want to eat." Before long, a table of dishes that could feed more than 10 people was cleaned up by Wang Lu and his two best friends. With Lu Li's clear and transparent physique, it was very difficult for her to feel full. However, at this time, after eating a table of dishes, she couldn't help but feel satisfied. "Old Yi, since you've eaten and drank to your heart's content, you can start the program now." "Yes." Then she heard the sound of bamboo flute and spirals in the hall. Wang Lu leaned back on the recliner, slightly rocking back and forth in satisfaction. Lu Li couldn't help but be curious. "Wang Lu, this flying boat, is it you who bought it?" "Yes." "How much is this going to cost?" Even with Lu Li's naivety, she also knew that such a luxurious flying boat must have a sky-high price. At least, just the table of dishes alone would cost tens of thousands of silver coins, or hundreds of spirit stones. Wang Lu smiled. "Preferential price, 800,000 spirit stones." 800,000? Lu Li incredulously repeated the number. "Good, so rich." Wang Lu laughed. "Public expense to buy an official car, of course I have money." "Public expense?" "Yes, didn't I tell you? I have my own business down the mountain, a sect." Wang Lu nodded and then earnestly said, "Although Wisdom Sect is founded by me, a qualified manager must clearly distinguish between public and private accounts. The money that should be spent by the public can't be spent on private accounts." Lu Li felt that there was something wrong with Wang Lu's self-righteous explanation, but she couldn't point it out. After gawking for a moment, Lu Li blankly said, "But Master said to go down the mountain for experiential learning, we must be diligent and thrifty." Wang Lu waved his hand to interrupt her. "What a joke. I, the dignified leader of Wisdom Sect, every word and deed represents the face of tens of thousands of people. If I am diligent and thrifty, it would only make people look down on Wisdom Sect." With that, Wang Lu confidently lied down. Little Lu Li, learn well, this is called leader treatment. Chapter 174. The Cloud Wave Boat went all the way to the northwest, flying toward the cloud region. This flying boat soared high in the sky and could travel tens of thousands of miles a day. Even with the vastness of the 9 regions, it only needed 1 or 2 days to fly out of the Blue River region and enter the neighboring cloud region. Regarding this, Lu Li was full of amazement and embarrassment. Because before she went down the mountain, her master had seriously warned her that on this experiential learning trip to the cloud region, she must observe and remember a lot along the way. The last experiential learning trip had completely turned into a gourmet trip, so this time she must not mess around like that. With their speed, it would take them at least 10 days to reach the cloud region, and along the way they must carefully observe and think. However, looking at the white clouds outside the flying boat as well as the clear sky, Lu Li's simple mind couldn't help but doubt. If they flew like this, they would arrive at the cloud region in less than 2 days, so should they remember these things along the way? However, since her master had requested it, she could only remember it. Although Lu Li was naive and ignorant of worldly affairs, her memory was excellent. She stood at the edge of the hall, looking at the waterfall-like receding clouds outside the window. Her mind had already memorized all the scene in front of her. She even automatically imagined the tumbling clouds into their respective images. For example, some were like oval-shaped barbecue, some were like square barbecue, some were like dripping oil barbecue, and the girl earnestly memorized them. She was ready to go back and seriously tell her master about the result of her memory. She believed that the old man would certainly be happy. As for Wang Lu and Yi Chuchen, at this time, they were sitting around a tea table in the hall, listening to Yi Chuchen's report on the work of the past few years. In the past few years when Wang Lu was cultivating on the mountain, the summary of the Wisdom Sect's work would be sent to the non-phase peak every 10 days. Therefore, he had a general understanding of the situation. However, some of the important details needed to be supplemented by Yi Chuchen verbally. In general, the development of the Wisdom Sect had entered a good upward track. Even without Wang Lu's hands-on support, the Wisdom Sect still had a foundation for its own development. Currently, the number of Wisdom Sect's followers, broadly counted, had exceeded tens of millions of people, and the Great Ming country as the foundation of the Wisdom Sect, was managed like an iron bucket. Yi Chuchen, Li Nana, and Taoist Ming Yun, these 3 giants in the Great Ming country, their prestige was not inferior to the prime minister. The sect's mobilization and organization ability could be said to be against the heaven. With the combined power of tens of thousands of people, plus the huge investment from Wang Lu 5 years ago, the Wisdom sect's infrastructure has achieved great achievements. The output of low-grade spirit objects and spirit plants was so large that even the mysterious Sky Mansion paid attention to it. Before the end of the year, they signed an agreement to establish a long-term cooperative relationship. However, just by relying on these basic constructions, the annual income that the Wisdom sect could obtain had already made people who knew the inside story dumbfounded. If it was simply to amass money at this time, the Wisdom sect had already entered the harvesting period. Wang Lu's amazing investment in the past would, at most, return it in 10 years. And if they carried out some simple capital operations, the earnings would be even more amazing. However, Wang Lu's ambition was not limited to this. Because spirit stones gradually lost their value when they reached the top. Tens of thousands of spirit stones might be able to buy a Taoist master of King Pill as a thug, but even with 1 million spirit stones, it was still difficult to invite a Taoist master of Yuanying stage to come forward. In the mysterious Sky Mansion, they could show their VIP status and buy an 8th-rank spiritual treasure with hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. However, higher-rank spiritual treasures were priceless. And Wang Lu's solution was very simple: to upgrade the industry and in the future to be self-sufficient. To achieve this grand blueprint, the biggest problem was the lack of talent. Currently, the Wisdom sect had tens of millions of followers, but the several vice sect leaders were only Shudan stage cultivators. Moreover, among Shudan stage cultivators they were not considered strong. Although they spent money to hire several King Pill level thugs, overall they were still far from a mature sect. What to do? Very simple: throw money. Right now the Wisdom sect was lacking in everything but not in money. Although it was very difficult to attract those famous people with genuine talent by relying on spirit stones alone, if those famous people didn't come, a few broken cultivators who couldn't stay in the big sects would still be better than a loose cultivator like Yi Chuchen. Wang Lu asked the Wisdom sect to spend a lot of money to attract talented people and provide them with extremely luxurious welfare. This strategy had been implemented for more than half a year, and it had really attracted a lot of people from the big sects who, although they were not in their eyes, were incomparably precious to the Wisdom sect, which played a great role in promoting the Wisdom sect. And as the leader of the Wisdom sect, Wang Lu naturally enjoyed the due leadership treatment. In fact, if the leader didn't take the lead, it would instead make the onlookers doubt your strength. And Wang Lu wanted to use this Lingyun 2000 to show the world. Wisdom sect is rich and overbearing, full of confidence. Recruiting talented people, welcome to join. After handing over the sect's work to Yi Chuchen, only half a day had passed, but this Shudan stage vice sect leader already felt physically and mentally exhausted. Reporting work and listening to instructions in front of Wang Lu was indeed a bit stressful. Although the young man in front of him was a stage lower than him, Yi Chuchen was very clear about the gap in strength between the two of them. 8 years ago, when Wang Lu was still in the qi cultivating stage, he was already able to use his non-phase sword to contend against the 7-star sword art that he was so proud of. But now, after 8 years, he was afraid that he didn't even have the qualification to make a move against him. With that stupid model dog, he was not his opponent. Moreover, although Wang Lu's tone was calm, his words were always accurate. Yi Chuchen's mistakes in the past few years were easily picked out by him. Although he didn't criticize him, it still made him break out in cold sweat. Fortunately, the unbearable time was finally over. Yi Chuchen sighed in relief, smiled, and introduced the local conditions and customs of the Cloud region to Wang Lu. The Cloud region was located in the northwest of the Blue River region. As an important part of the 9 regions, it had a vast territory, rich resources, and so on. Needless to say, its biggest characteristic was chaos. Unlike the Blue River region and the other regions that were suppressed by the 5 unique of the Wanxian League, the Cloud region never had a particularly powerful deterrent force, not even the Wanxiang sect or the Flowing Cloud sect. The land of the region was divided by dozens of 3rd and 4th rank sects, such as the White Dragon Temple and Merciful Cloud Mountain. To put it nicely, it was like 100 flowers blooming, but to put it bluntly, it was like a warlord separatist rule. However, this situation also had its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage was that the situation was chaotic, which was beneficial for sects like the Wisdom sect to fish in troubled waters. The disadvantage was that if they were not careful, they would capsize. The strength of the Wisdom sect was still not comparable to those 3rd and 4th rank sections. Therefore, several days ago, Wang Lu sent a letter to Yi Chuchen, asking him to prepare the Cloud Wave boat and go to the Cloud region together. This made Yi Chuchen very curious. What exactly did the director want to do in the cloud region this time? It's nothing much. I'm just delivering a letter for Master, Wang Lu said lightly. Yi Chuchen was a little surprised and annoyed. Can't you just leave the messy task of delivering the letter to the people of SF Express? Why do you need the Ministry of Labor to come here? Wang Lu chuckled. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. At the foot of the mountain, I am the leader of the wisdom sect, the sect leader. I'm just the chief disciple on the mountain. I don't have the right to put on airs. Besides, apart from delivering the letter, I also have my own things to do. Old Yi, is there anything fun in the Grand Cloud Mountains surrounding area recently? Yi Chuchen had done his homework. After thinking for a while he said, Grand Cloud Mountain is in the Grand Cloud Empire. There are White Dragon Temple, Merciful Cloud Mountain, and other high-rank cultivation sects above it. Below it is the imperial power of the Grand Cloud Empire suppressing it, so it's relatively stable. However, recently sects from other states established branches near Grand Cloud Mountain. Their attitudes are rude and unreasonable, so there's a lot of conflict. Hearing this, Wang Lu's heart skipped a beat. He guessed that the matter his master had entrusted to him was likely related to this matter. Thus, he perked up and said, Oh? Tell me the details. Yi Chuchen gawked and couldn't help but wryly smile. He only knew the general information about the Grand Cloud Mountain, so how could he know the details? Nevertheless, Yi Chuchen still recounted the outline of the matter to her. The one who stirred up the trouble was the third-rank sect Beastmaster School in the Southern Heaven region. More than a year ago, many elders of the Beastmaster School, along with hundreds of disciples, traveled thousands of miles from the Southern Heaven region to the Cloud region and established a branch near the Grand Cloud Mountain. Regarding this, the host, the Grand Cloud Empire, did not stop them. On the contrary, the imperial family and the court were happy to see this happen. Being able to have a not-so-strong nor not-so-weak foreign cultivation sect settle in their territory was beneficial for them to play the balancing act among the other immortal cultivation sects. As for the local sects in the Grand Cloud Empire, they didn't oppose it. First, 3 years ago, the cultivation base of the Beastmaster School's sect leader had advanced, reaching the peak Yuanying stage. The Beastmaster School was already considered powerful among the third-rank sects, much stronger than the fourth-rank sects like White Dragon Temple. Second, there were no valuable resources in the vicinity of the Grand Cloud Mountain, so they could take advantage of the situation to sell a favor, so why not? However, only a year later, the harmonious atmosphere couldn't be maintained. The Beastmaster School had a conflict with the local government. Several cultivators injured nearby civilians, and after the government sent people to interrogate them, they also injured the officers and insulted the officials. This kind of thing was actually not a big deal. After all, cultivators were aloof and lawless. However, when the cultivators of White Dragon Temple were entrusted to go to the Beastmaster School's branch to demand an explanation, they were humiliated and abused. Later, it escalated into a violent conflict, and the contradiction began to intensify. Fortunately, later, under the mediation of the Wanxian League, the situation didn't further escalate. The Beastmaster School's branch leader came forward to apologize, and White Dragon Temple and the Grand Cloud Empire reluctantly accepted it. But the root problem is not solved. I think this peace won't last long. The root problem? Yi Chuchen shook his head and said with a disgusted face, the Beastmaster School who came here to establish a branch is a relatively radical and extreme sect. Their 3 views are completely different from ordinary people, but they are also self-righteous and extreme, never allowing any opposition. What do you mean specifically? Yi Chuchen said, Mr. Director, you also know that the cultivators of the Beastmaster School often associate with spirit birds and spirit beasts and form a deep relationship with them, so. Wang Lu's mind turned and he roughly guessed the cause of the matter. He couldn't help but sneer. Interesting, this time the opponent is a small animal rights organization? Speaking to this, Wang Lu turned his head, looked at the mottled dog on the ground, and then looked at Lu Li who was standing by the window looking at the clouds. Damn, you guys actually met your family. Chapter 175. What happened to the Beastmaster School on the Grand Cloud Mountain was not surprising. There were thousands of sects in the Wanxian League, and most of them inevitably had to deal with mortals. There were only a few sects like Kunlun Immortal Sect that didn't eat the common people's food. And as long as they had dealings, conflicts were inevitable, so it was not unusual. In addition, the sects in the Wanxian League were not few in number. The Beastmaster School, which liked to associate with spirit beasts, was relatively mild. After all, the whole conflict was limited to injuring a few people, which damaged the face of the Grand Cloud Empire's imperial family and White Dragon Temple. If they were to encounter those truly extreme sects, they would directly tie a few low-level disciples to themselves with lava essence, exploding runes and other such things, and then launch a suicide attack while shouting nonsense. That would be the most splendid scene. The only thing that could arouse Wang Lu's interest was the Beast Master School. As a third-rank sect, although it was at the bottom of the high-rank sects, it was still a high-rank sect. White Dragon Temple, Merciful Cloud Mountain, and the others were sects that had been around for thousands of years in the Grand Cloud Empire, but they were only fourth-rank sects, which belonged to the middle-rank sections. This gap was very important to Wang Lu, because the efficiency of using high-rank sects to increase his reputation was not something that middle-rank sects could compare to. And according to the newly issued additional rule regarding the lead disciple in the Lingjian school, in addition to the title of lead disciple, if a disciple did something that boosted the sect's reputation, they would get corresponding points according to the impact and other factors. And by using these points, they could obtain a variety of sect titles granted by the Heavenly Sword Hall. After all, the number of lead disciple was limited, which was not conducive to stimulating the overall enthusiasm of the sect. However, there was no limit on the title, which could let 100 flowers bloom. And the sect title was not only an honor, but also a substantial reward. The Heavenly Sword Hall would, according to the characteristics of the title, forge the corresponding level equipment for the disciple. And how could the Heavenly Sword Hall's products be ordinary? High-rank magical treasures were not rare, and even spiritual treasures could be tailored. For the Wisdom Sect's leader with a net worth of hundreds of millions of spirit stones, spiritual treasures might not be too rare, but tailor-made spiritual treasures were not common. 800,000 spirit stones might be able to buy an 8th-rank spiritual treasure, but if he wanted to buy one that was as good as the Sword of Mount Kuan, even if Wang Lu invested 8 million spirit stones, it would still be difficult. This time, when he descended the mountain, he would grind up his reputation, unlock his title and exchange for treasures. These were the most important things. According to the school's point system, if Wang Lu was able to flatten this beast-taming school's division, he would be able to earn more points than if he were to challenge the White Dragon Temple and Merciful Cloud Mountain. Of course, with Wang Lu's current ability, going to find a group of people founded by Taoist King Pil was no different from seeking his own death. Although the beast-taming school's reputation wasn't good, it wasn't evil. Going to cause trouble for them without rhyme or reason was unreasonable. Wang Lu pondered for a moment and decided to put this matter in his mind for the time being. While thinking, Yi Chuchen eagerly asked, "Mr. Director, could it be that the Spirit Sword Immortals and the beast-taming school have some kind of friendship with each other?" Wang Lu frowned. "No, we don't have any kind of friendship with anyone, we're just a lone wolf." Yi Chuchen hesitated. Should he praise the Lingjian school for being noble and virtuous, or should he join the director in ridiculing the sect? The scale was really hard to grasp. After thinking about it, the vice-sect leader decided to change the topic. "Then I wonder who is Mr. Director going to send the letter to? Although the Wisdom Sect hasn't opened up their territory in the Grand Cloud Empire, it's still convenient to inquire about some information." Wang Lu looked at the letter in his hand and said, "I haven't seen that person before. I only heard a few words from my master. However, from the name it should be a bald man." Zen. Yi Chuchen felt strange. There are not many Zen cultivators in the Grand Cloud Empire. There's not even a Zen sect in the vicinity of the Grand Cloud Mountain. Could it be a loose cultivator? But it doesn't matter. Can you tell me the name of that master? Perhaps I know it. Go Ruo. Yi Chuchen froze for a long time and then softly asked, "What? Have you heard of Zen Master Go Ruo?" "This subordinate is ignorant and inexperienced, so I really haven't heard of it. However, I can mobilize the Wisdom Sect's disciples, or ask the Wanxian League-related organization in the Grand Cloud Empire." Before he could finish, Wang Lu coldly glanced at him as if he was looking at an idiot. "This time, find a city near the Grand Cloud Mountain and stop there. After that, you don't need to care about it and you don't need to inquire about the information." Yi Chuchen was startled, and then he secretly scolded himself for being muddle-headed. Wang Lu was very likely to find trouble with the third-rank beast-taming school. If the Wisdom Sect insisted on playing a role in this, once it was discovered, he couldn't afford the consequences. A day later, the Cloud Wave boat landed in the Grand Cloud Empire's territory, outside the Moral Enlightenment City on the southern side of the Grand Cloud Mountain. The Moral Enlightenment City was a prefectural city in the Grand Cloud Empire. Its scale was huge and its population was in the millions. Inside the city, it was bustling with traffic. Moreover, what made Yi Chuchen amazed was that this city was filled with the aura of cultivators. In addition to those ordinary houses with exquisite workmanship and materials, there were also a lot of cultivators' residences. For example, there were no less than 10 floating courtyards. However, the residents of the city regarded this as normal. Obviously, they had long adapted to it. And this was just a prefectural city in the Grand Cloud Empire. If it were the capital, it was unknown how prosperous it would be. Yi Chuchen couldn't help but sigh. Alas, this is indeed the Cloud region. A prefectural city has such a scene. Even the capital of the Great Ming country is quite inferior to it. No wonder people say that the Blue River region is the weakest in the 9 regions. There is indeed a gap. Wang Lu said, if there is a gap, then catch up. What's the use of sighing about it? Or do you want to jump ship and emigrate? Yi Chuchen knew that he had repeatedly said the wrong things, which had deducted a lot of points in the leader's heart. Thus, while secretly cursing himself for being stupid, he tactfully excused himself, no longer bothering Wang Lu. After Yi Chuchen left, Wang Lu used a spell to put the cloud wave boat into his mustard seed bag. After that, he didn't hurry to enter the city. Instead, he carefully looked at the vast city outside the city. He always felt that there was something wrong with this city. Therefore, he reached out and patted Luli. Little Luli, tell me your opinion. Luli wrinkled her nose. Her clear eyes reflected the outline of the city. Perhaps Luli would never be as smart and quick-witted as others, but because of her extremely simple temperament, she could keenly perceive the essence of things. 5 years ago, in the duel on the Grand Cloud platform, Luli was even earlier than the elders in the audience. That Wang Lu had the Big Heart Demon Oath as well as the ability to reach the Foundation establishment stage. Her insight was outstanding. Seems to be sick. A moment later, Luli gave a simple and crisp conclusion. Then she took out the beef and happily ate it. Sick? Wang Lu pondered for a moment and had a general guess in his heart. Very well, let's go into the city first. This kind of bustling city should have local delicacies, right? Luli cheered. Okay. The mottled dog also began to bark non-stop, full of joy. After 1 person and 2 pets entered the city, they didn't show their cultivator identity. Just like the foreign tourists that could be seen everywhere in the Moral Enlightenment City, they curiously wandered around the city. Along the way, Wang Lu bought snacks for Luli and the stupid dog. The eating habits of the Cloud region and the Blue River region were indeed quite different, and the food in the city had its own characteristics. However, after walking 3 to 5 streets, Wang Lu found an unsurprising rule: meat was extremely rare. In a cold-cooked meat shop, Wang Lu asked for a few sausages and a few large pieces of smoked meat. While paying the bill, he casually asked, "Boss, do you have braised dog meat?" As soon as his voice fell, the face of the meat shop owner, who was as sturdy as an iron tower, changed dramatically. He subconsciously wanted to reach out and push Wang Lu out of the shop. However, at this time Wang Lu had already taken the sausages and was still paying. If he were to be pushed out like this, the business would be in vain. Thereupon, the boss hurriedly took a few steps forward, closed the shop door, and then angrily complained, "You 2 customers are really... It's fine if you're looking for trouble, but don't implicate me. Seeing you with a dog, I thought you were... I didn't expect you to be so insensible." Wang Lu was surprised. "Boss, what are you talking about? Buying a pile of your things and you're complaining instead? That's fine, I don't want that pile of sausages and smoked meat anymore. I'm leaving." The boss pulled back Wang Lu. "You don't know what's good for you. I'm telling you, you can say whatever you want in other places, but in this Moral Enlightenment City, it's best not to mention dog meat." He paused for a moment and then said with a helpless expression, "Not to mention dog meat, it's better to eat less of any kind of meat. I'm afraid that in a few years, everyone in this Moral Enlightenment City will become vegetarian." Wang Lu asked, "What's the reason for this? I've heard that this Moral Enlightenment City is famous far and near as a gourmet city. How did it become a vegetarian city?" The meat shop owner stuck his head out of the door and looked around. After confirming that there was no one around, he sat down and complained, "Isn't it because of that group of cultivators? You're an outsider, so you don't know. More than a year ago, a group of cultivators from the Beast Master School came to the Grand Cloud Mountain to the north of this Moral Enlightenment City. Then they went around saying that this meat can't be eaten, that meat can't be eaten, and that the rules are greater than the law. Although they can't find trouble with you in the open, they can still make things difficult for you in the dark." Wang Lu was amused. "Beast Master School? Don't tell me they rely on steamed buns and flour rolls to raise spirit beasts? Don't those fierce spirit beasts also eat meat as food?" "He who says they don't. Unfortunately, in their eyes we common people can't even compare to the birds and beasts they raise," the boss said, feeling even more vexed. My shop 2 years ago was still the best business shop in this area. Now you see how many people still come to visit. Wang Lu nodded. Then I have to thank you, boss, for reminding me. But it's actually not a big deal, right? The boss said, yes, it's not like we can't eat any meat. Moreover, even if we don't eat meat, people won't die. Therefore, although everyone complains, their days can still go on. It's a pity that I, your father, have spent my entire life in this area, but I don't know how to eat in the future? It's just starting from the beginning. Hearing this, Wang Lu felt that he had already gathered enough information. He no longer chatted with the boss and went straight out the door. The Beast Master School's influence in Moral Enlightenment City was still limited. Otherwise, just based on the boss' criticism of the Beast Master School just now, he would be courting death. That being the case, as long as he didn't take the initiative to stir up trouble in the city, there wouldn't be any trouble. In theory. Chapter 176. Coming out from the butcher shop, Wang Lu and his two best friends went to the city center. After confirming the basic environment of the city, Wang Lu felt relieved. Beast Master School's control over the Moral Enlightenment City was limited, and presumably, this division didn't regard this place as important. Most of their main force was in the vicinity of the Grand Cloud Mountain. Here, the ones promoting vegetarianism were mostly a few Qi cultivating stage and foundation establishment stage juniors. The only troublesome problem was that, if these juniors were allowed to create a storm in the city, it could be seen that the influence of the local forces and even the Wuxia League was even weaker. He also didn't know if the relevant service organizations had closed down. For a city the size of the Moral Enlightenment City, generally the Wuxia League or the local big sects would set up an office here to receive wandering cultivators from all over the world. When Wang Lu was outside the city, he saw that there were more than 10 floating courtyards in the city center, as well as a large number of immortal cultivation facilities. It could be seen that the existence of cultivators was very common here, so there shouldn't be a shortage of offices. However, now that there were people from the Beast Master School coming to stir up trouble, things might not go so smoothly. After walking for half an hour, plus several times asking for directions, Wang Lu finally found the Wuxia League office in the Moral Enlightenment City. It was a simple and exquisite small building with a plaque hanging on the door. Wuxia League Yunzhou Division Cloud Platform Hall Moral Enlightenment City Office. Well, obviously, the person in charge of this Yunzhou division was deeply influenced by the vernacular movement. Even the signboard was very approachable. The people of the Moral Enlightenment City were obviously familiar with this small building. Although it was located in the city center, there were not many pedestrians around, and there were no guards at the door. Wang Lu confidently entered the door and saw a spacious hall inside the building. A 23 or 24-year-old girl was sitting behind the counter. Her expression was somewhat lazy and indifferent. Seeing Wang Lu and the others come in, she hung a smile that was seriously lacking in warmth. Two Taoist friends, welcome to the Moral Enlightenment City. Please register here according to the regulations, and then you can receive a guidebook prepared by me, and enjoy the corresponding specifications of convenient services. This was basically the general rule of the Wuxia League. Wang Lu took out his and Lu Li's documents from his mustard seed bag and handed them over, waiting for the verification. Oh, you Lu Yu Xian, people from the Skywater Lakes Yu clan? The girl in charge of reception used a spell to read the information in the certificate. Seeing the unique seal of the Yu clan of the Celestial Water Lake, she couldn't help but nod. Celestial Water Lake is a cultivation family. Although it's not very strong, it has a long history and can barely be considered a famous family, at least a regional famous family. The two cultivators in front of her seem to be mediocre, but since they're from a famous family, they at least know the rules and etiquette and won't cause any trouble. However, he didn't expect that the two golden documents in his hands were forged by Yu Xinyao under the request of Wang Lu. In this trip to the north to Cloud State, at least at the beginning, Wang Lu planned to keep a low profile. The few of them came here on the Cloud Wave boat. After entering the boundary of Cloud State, they activated the formation inside the boat to disguise themselves, hiding the cloud silver coating on the surface. It looked like an ordinary second-hand flying boat, which was in line with the identity of Yu Clan's cultivators. Here are two guidebooks, please keep them. They explain in detail the basic situation of the Moral Enlightenment City and its surrounding areas, as well as the matters to pay attention to. In addition, Wang Lu didn't wait for the receptionist girl to finish her words and directly handed over 3 spirit stones. I also want a senior guidebook. Seeing the spirit stones, the girl's eyes lit up. She quickly pulled out an obviously heavier book from the counter. The information recorded on it was more comprehensive and more important, so of course, it wouldn't be free. However, one book was only 2 spirit stones, so the extra spirit stone could be counted as her extra income. Wang Lu took the senior guidebook and put it away without looking at it. Then he handed over another spirit stone. I want to find someone. The girl was startled, and then her face revealed a difficult expression. This, I won't hide it from you. If it was 1 or 2 years ago, let alone looking for someone, as long as you can afford it, we can even buy someone. But now, the Wanxian League is preparing to withdraw from the Moral Enlightenment City. Although the basic business of the office is still preserved, there is no one left to continue doing it. Even if you pay the advance payment, it will be very difficult for us to produce results. Although she said that, the young lady quietly took the spirit stone. Wang Lu nodded and said, I see that the office in the Moral Enlightenment City is indeed somewhat dilapidated. However, although a lot of the business can't be done, I've stayed here for several years. If it's simple information, I can also help you investigate, the girl said, her eyes sparkling. Wang Lu smiled and handed over another 5 spirit stones. I want to find a person called Zen Master Go Ruang. Zen Master Go Ruang? The girl immediately frowned. I haven't heard of any famous Zen cultivators in the vicinity. Holding the 5 spirit stones in her hand, the girl didn't want to let go, but she really couldn't think of any Zen Master Go Ruang. Her heart gradually became anxious. Although this Yu family's little handsome boy was extravagant, he wasn't a fool. It was good for her to earn some extra money, but if she angered him. Now there weren't many people in the office who could help her. In the midst of her anxiety, the girl suddenly saw the mottled dog at Wang Lu's feet, gnawing on a bone. Her eyes couldn't help but shine. I don't know the person you're looking for, but I can give you a piece of information. The girl said somewhat proudly, in this Moral Enlightenment City, or even the surroundings of the Grand Cloud Mountain, it's best not to release your spirit pets so openly, especially spirit dogs. Wang Lu asked, what's the reason for this? The girl cautiously leaned forward and softly said, it's because of the Beastmaster School. You know the Beastmaster School, right? Recently they've been collecting all kinds of spirit pets, especially spirit dogs. They collect them on sight and they even take them by force. Wang Lu smiled and kicked the stupid dog's hind leg. Collecting spirit dogs? They probably don't like this kind of mottled breed. The girl shook her head. It's hard to say. I heard that as long as they have intelligence they can be classified as spirit pets. They'll collect them. It seems like they're making some big move. Wang Lu asked, are they planning to make 100-dog feast? The girl was taken aback. Don't talk nonsense. However, the warning came too late. From outside the building they heard 2 cold snorts. 2 white-clothed women coldly looked at each other. The Wanxian League girl was startled and quickly said, today the office is closing early, I'm going to close. Wang Lu didn't care. He patted Lu Li who was eating snacks and kicked the mottled stupid dog. Let's go. Outside the door, the 2 white-clothed women happened to block his way. Their eyes were quite unkind. Wang Lu also looked at them. Needless to say, they were most likely fellow Taoists of the Beastmaster School. The 2 of them looked 26 or 27, and their cultivation base was around middle-level foundation establishment. Based on this speculation, even in the Beastmaster School, their aptitude was only mediocre. After all, although they looked 26 or 27, they were actually more than 30 years old. Even the everlasting appearance technique couldn't save them, so their aptitude couldn't be said to be good. In particular, there was Lu Li who had been cultivating for more than 10 years. Her actual biological age was 25 or 26, but she looked exactly the same as when she was 15 or 16 years old. Moreover, it was likely that there would be no big change in her appearance. The contrast was too strong. The 2 middle-aged women stared at Wang Lu for a while, and then the one with the bigger face warned, be careful what you say in the future. You also have a spirit pet, so there's no need to say those cheap jokes. Then they ignored him because when they were outside the door, they also heard the origin of Wang Lu and Lu Li. The Celestial Water Lakes Yu family was not strong, but it was still an immortal cultivation family, so there was no need to make a big fuss just because of a joke. However, when she was about to turn around and leave, the other woman pulled her sleeve. The big-faced woman was slightly startled. Her eyes followed her junior sister's finger and was immediately startled. At this time, Wang Lu was not in the mood to talk nonsense with the 2 middle-aged women. He turned around to leave, but just as he took a step, he heard the big-faced woman behind him opened her mouth. Fellow Taoist, please wait. What the hell? Wang Lu was inexplicably shocked. In broad daylight, under the bright sky, these 2 ugly middle-aged women actually wanted to conspire against him? Are you Beast Master School or Yin and Yang School? Why are you so thirsty? However, the next moment, the big-faced woman pointed her finger at the mottled dog at Wang Lu's feet. May I ask, fellow Taoist, this little guy should be your pet? I wonder if you can part with it? Wang Lu frowned. Part with it? Then he kicked the stupid dog. Hey, he said he wants me to do a sterilization operation for you, what do you think? The stupid dog, woof? In a state of shock, it directly bit off the big soy sauce bone. The big-faced woman twisted her eyebrows. I mean, this thing is destined to be with my Beast Master School, so we intend to buy it. Wang Lu smiled. How much money do you want to pay? The big-faced woman hesitated for a moment. Because he could see that the opposite party was not a poor cultivator, it was unrealistic to offer too low a price. I'll pay 1,000 spirit stones. While shouting, the big-faced woman felt pain all over her body. That was her savings of several years. Wang Lu replied with a smile that said "Pauper Scram," turned around and was about to leave. Wait, 2,000. It was the junior sister who opened her mouth to increase the price. As a cultivator of the Beast Master School, their cultivation could not be considered high, but their ability to distinguish spirit beasts was quite good. The mottled dog at Wang Lu's feet did not look special, but there was an astonishing power hidden inside its body. Although they could not distinguish its breed, they could at least confirm that it was not an ordinary one. Such a spirit beast for a mere Yu clan to raise was really a waste. If they could take it and offer it to the elders of their school, they could enjoy endless benefits. Now, with 2,000 spirit stones, they could at least get 10 or 20 times the profit. Unfortunately, Wang Lu did not care about these 1 or 2,000 spirit stones. He walked away with large strides, without the slightest reluctance. The senior sister and junior sister looked at each other in dismay. Just as they were thinking about what other valuable things they had on them, they saw Wang Lu stop his footsteps and turn around to ask a question. Money? I don't lack it, but I want to find someone. The senior sister was overjoyed and quickly said, Rest assured, the surrounding area of the Grand Cloud Mountain has long been our Beast Master School's territory. Even if it's an insect, we can still find it. I want to find Zen Master Go Rua. Zen Master Go Rua? The woman with the big round face looked embarrassed. Obviously, she had never heard of such a baldy. The junior sister's eyes turned, but she smiled and said, I seem to have some impression of him. Wang Lu raised his eyebrows. Yes, I heard Master mention him. He's an expert. The junior sister said while carefully observing the other's reaction. Unfortunately, Wang Lu's expression was cold and she couldn't see any change. This is not the place to talk, why don't we find a place to have a cup of tea? While saying that, she tried to put on a seductive posture. This junior sister was indeed more beautiful than her senior sister. At the same time, her eyes couldn't help but flash with an ominous glint. In this moral enlightenment city, there were still a few areas where the Beast Master School could do whatever they wanted. Wang Lu was stunned for a moment. Then he very decisively reached out and put his arm around Lu Li's shoulder. Sorry, I already have someone I like. Chapter 177. Faced with Wang Lu's sudden reaction, the female cultivators of Beast Master School were immediately stunned. The big-faced woman pointed at Wang Lu and Lu Li in a daze. You said, you have someone you like, but aren't you from the same family? Wang Lu nodded. Yes, this is my sister. I'm an incurable siscon. Every day, I have to use my sister's underwear as my pillow to sleep. Are you satisfied now? With that, he turned around and walked away, no longer paying attention to the two people who were trying to get something for nothing, but obviously had no capital and no IQ. The two people were already shocked by Wang Lu's declaration of love. Without saying a word, they stood in place. When they came back to their senses, the two people and the dog had already gone far away. Wang Lu, just now you said I'm your sister, but I'm obviously older than you. On the road, Lu Li suddenly opened her mouth and asked a question that had puzzled her for a long time. Wang Lu touched her head. But your IQ is lower than mine, so you're my sister. Oh, is that so? Lu Li nodded in understanding and tried to record this reasoning process. A moment later, she asked, What do you mean by siscon? Siscon is the one who controls the younger sister. You see, fourth uncle also told you to listen to me when you go down the mountain, right? Oh, so that's how it is? Lu Li continued to nod. What about sleeping on my sister's underwear? Wang Lu was silent for a moment. This question involves a profound cultivation method. For the current you, it's still too difficult. Later, if there's an opportunity, I'll tell you. I'm good. After dealing with Lu Li, Wang Lu decided not to stay in the moral enlightenment city for long. Although he managed to fool the two female cultivators of Beastmaster School, the other party obviously wouldn't give up. After all, the cultivation base of Wang Lu and Lu Li was currently high-level Qi cultivating stage. Going out, especially in a relatively chaotic place like Cloud Region, being too outstanding was also a kind of trouble. It would give the other party a reason to take risks out of desperation. The Yu clan's identity was not considered to be a deterrent within the borders of Cloud State. At least it was not as strong as the beast-taming sect's name. Looking at it from a comprehensive point of view, there was a 70 to 80% chance that the other party would take the risk out of desperation. Speaking of fear, Wang Lu was certainly not afraid. Not to mention that the other party was merely in the middle stage of foundation establishment. Even if a middle-stage Shudan stage cultivator came, Wang Lu would still be able to deal with the opponent in 3 to 5 rounds if he was serious. However, before he went down the mountain, sect head uncle specifically looked for him and told him one thing. Wang Lu, you have been cultivating in Spirit Sword Mountain for 10 years. In these 10 years, you have surprised everyone on the mountain. Even among the 5 uniques of the Wanxian League, your performance is the best. Whether it was the cultivation method or other aspects. I don't want to say that this is necessarily a bad thing, but you're still young, so there's no need to lock your own style. This time, when you go down the mountain, I hope you can promise me one thing. No matter what problem you encounter, make a concession once. Of course, only once. After making a concession, if the other party is still aggressive, you can solve the problem in your own way. At that time, Wang Lu thought for a moment, and then asked, can this be regarded as a challenge task arranged by the sect? Sect head Taoist master said with a smile, very well, consider it as a higher requirement for your experiential learning. If you can successfully complete the challenge, naturally, you will get the corresponding reward points. In accordance with the original agreement, Wang Lu chose to make a concession in front of the office building. Of course, only in his own eyes could it be counted as a concession. Right now, Wang Lu chose to go out of the city. On one hand, although this moral enlightenment city was big, if he wanted to inquire about the news of Zen Master Go Rua, it was mostly hopeless. The Wanxian League didn't know, and neither did the Beastmaster School. The identity of this Zen Master Go Rua was much more mysterious than he expected. Perhaps only by going to the Grand Cloud Mountain himself could he find the clue. On the other hand, although according to the rules he had to choose to make a concession in the first possible conflict, but at that time, it didn't say that he couldn't fish. If he took Lu Li and the mottled dog out of the city, if the two women were tactful, then everything would be fine. If not, Wang Lu looked at Lu Li and the stupid dog beside him. After practicing the fighting method for many days on the mountain, he finally had a chance to put it to use. The female cultivator of Beastmaster School did not let Wang Lu down. Not long after he went out of the city in the woods, Wang Lu was intercepted by the two of them. Of course, this wasn't strange at all because the stupid dog still had the tracking spell that they had cast on it. Beastmaster School's spirit beast-related spell was one of the best in the Wanxian League. Even the cultivators of the 10,000 Arts sect often cooperated with the Beastmaster School in related aspects. The cultivation of the two women was mediocre, but their technique was quite brilliant. If not for Wang Lu and Lu Li's level of cultivators, they wouldn't have been easily discovered. Fellow Taoist, please wait. The same words were said for the second time, without the previous restraint and politeness. The two female cultivators looked solemn, as if they were afraid that others wouldn't see that they were robbers. Even the senior sister with the big round face directly took out her magical tool, a glittering golden whip. However, the first one to open her mouth was the prettier junior sister. She reluctantly hung a smile, trying to be polite before resorting to force. Fellow Taoist, previously in the city, you left in a hurry, so I haven't had the time to finish my words. The spirit dog beside you is fated with my Beastmaster School, so no matter what, I hope you can part with it. Wang Lu smiled. Fated? Why don't you tell me about it? That junior sister had obviously done her homework. She earnestly said, fellow Taoist must have heard of the reputation of my Beastmaster School. In terms of training and training spirit beast, we are second to none in the 9 regions. Although your family also has its own specialty, it's not good at beast taming. And then? Your spirit dog is innately supernatural. If it can be properly trained, its future is limitless. Forgive me for my rudeness, but if you raise it like this, I'm afraid it will be wasted, a reckless waste of God's gift. And then? The junior sister frowned. And then, if you really want it well, then naturally you should give it a better future, instead of using the reason of years of affection and so on to bind it. Wang Lu almost spurted out blood, thinking, where did this woman find these lines? Even if I'm really a cis-con, it's absolutely impossible for me to like this human beast thing. However, after spurting out the rice, Wang Lu didn't forget to retort. According to your words, if a man really loves a woman, he must find a way to give her a strong aphrodisiac, and then take advantage of the night to throw her on the bed of a tall, rich, and handsome man. If he can get pregnant with a child in the future, there will be no lack of glory, splendor, and wealth. At the same time, a man should hide outside the window, listening to his beloved woman being fucked by a tall, rich, and handsome man. Is this the rhythm? With that, Wang Lu let go of Lu Li's ears and waited for the response of the two middle-aged women. After a while, that junior sister fiercely said, "A despicable and vulgar master like you doesn't deserve to have a spirit pet." At the same time, the magical tool in her hand gradually lit up, and the situation became more and more dangerous. Wang Lu ridiculed, "Since you want to be a whore, then don't give me a chastity arch blocking the road and snatching the dog," yet still saying it in such a dignified way, "You're really worthy to be from a small animal rights organization." The two female cultivators no longer answered. At this point, what else could they do but make their move? The two of them carefully stared at each other and found that the other party's attention was focused on the magical tool in their hand, so they couldn't help but feel relieved. They were probably the newcomers of the Yu family who had just gone out for experiential learning, so their experience was seriously insufficient. How could they focus on the cultivators of the Beast Master School? However, when they were about to sneer and make their move, they suddenly heard the girl named Yuxian say with a smile, "What a cute puppy." With that, she took 2 steps forward, bent her body, and stretched out her hand. The light distorted, and an unwilling white-haired puppy was pressed by Lu Li's hand on its head, and then it could no longer move. The complexion of the two female cultivators suddenly changed. The invisible white-haired dog was the most proud spirit pet of senior sister Qin Dongji. Its ability to hide itself was so great that even Shudan stage cultivators would not be able to detect it. It was a good weapon for sneak attacks. Unexpectedly, before the fight had even started, it had been pulled out by the opponent's seemingly innocent little girl. At this time, looking at Yuxian's innocent smile, the two female cultivators of the Beast Master School felt a chill in their hearts. This person, is she really stupid or just pretending to be stupid? Wang Lu was not surprised at all. Not to mention that invisible dog, even he could see through it. With Lu Li's heaven-defying insight, even in the Spirit Sword Mountain without the King Pill level method, it would be impossible to hide from her eyes. And these two female cultivators of the Beast Master School had the arrogance of robbing them, but their strength was too low. Xianer. Wang Lu resisted the nauseating feeling all over his body and came up with such a name. Huh. Lu Li didn't care at all. She happily teased the puppy in her hand. Seeing that the other party was trembling in fear, she even tried to feed it snacks. In this urgent situation, it actually showed a bit of childlike warmth. But Wang Lu's next sentence completely destroyed this atmosphere. "The one in your hand is tonight's dinner." Lu Li gawked and subconsciously made a swallowing action. The invisible white dog that was stroked by her delicate hand finally couldn't bear the despair and simply fainted. "Junior sister, do it?" Qin Dongji roared. The whip in her hand turned into a massive golden cloud. Even though most of her ability came from her spirit beast, as a foundation establishment cultivator of a high-rank sect, her own skill was definitely not weak. Unfortunately, it depended on who she was compared with. "Xianer, do it?" Although the order came later than the opponent, Lu Li's reaction was too fast. Before Wang Lu's voice fell, the girl's flying sword had already directly pierced through Qin Dongji's golden cloud, breaking her original magical tool and causing the woman to suddenly spurt out a mouthful of blood. Then the sword light turned and deftly landed on the side of the junior sister's neck. With just a touch, her whole body's defensive spell was completely broken. The junior sister didn't even have the time to call her spirit beast for help before she could no longer say even half a word. After defeating the two female cultivators, Lu Li retrieved her flying sword and single-handedly picked up the unconscious puppy. After sizing it up, she somewhat embarrassedly turned her head and asked, "Do you really want to eat this little guy tonight?" Before Wang Lu had the time to speak, he heard Lu Li pleadingly said, "Don't eat it, okay, brother?" "Brother?" Wang Lu felt a buzzing sound in his head. You idiot actually used your killing move on your own people at this time?" Chapter 178. When the stupid Lu Li unleashed her big move on her own people, Wang Lu really couldn't resist it. He froze for a moment, and it was at this moment that the two female cultivators of Beast Master School narrowed their eyes. "Go?" Then 2 golden lights flashed. As a low-level disciple of Beast Master School, The life-saving talisman was activated. The escape talisman wrapped the two people into a ball and quickly flew away. Luli looked at the ball of golden light that flew away. Although she could immediately intercept it, the girl didn't pay attention to it. Instead, she continued to stare at Wang Lu with her big watery eyes, expressing her pleading will. Wang Lu unceremoniously reached out and slapped her on the head. Idiot! Because she had long been accustomed to such criticism, Luli didn't try to feel wronged anymore. She just sincerely asked, "I'm sorry, did I do something wrong?" Wang Lu sighed. "Two things. First, you're one of the top sword cultivators in the Lingjian school and even in the immortal cultivation world of 9 regions. You must have your own strength of character, reserved and domineering aura. In short, don't act spoiled. Second, do I look like a person who will eat anything?" With that, Wang Lu pointed at the little white dog that was left behind by the 2 female cultivators of Beastmaster School. "This thing is our captive. I'll treat you to something else for dinner." Luli breathed a sigh of relief. "I know you're the best, brother." Wang Lu suddenly felt an irresistible chill from his non-phase sword bone. "Don't call me brother." "But didn't you say I'm your sister?" "My sister can't be so cute. Later on you can just call me senior brother. In any case, I'm the lead disciple of the sect, so I'm half a level lower than you." "Okay." Although she couldn't understand it, Luli had an excellent advantage, which was that she never asked why. After dealing with Luli, Wang Lu splashed the captive invisible white dog with cold water. Resuscitation, the puppy immediately turned invisible and tried to escape. As a result, just as half of its body turned invisible, it saw a pair of red eyes staring at it. It was a spirit dog with mixed fur that was about the same size as him. It looked silly and had a piece of marinated bone in its mouth. However, the small body seemed to hide a howl. The terrifying might it gave off almost caused the puppy's soul to freeze, and the instinctive technique it cast was disrupted and rendered ineffective. The mottled dog glanced at it and snorted in disdain. Its mouth continued to chew on the bone as if it was saying, "If you dare to run, this bone will be your end." Little White whimpered and raised its head to look at Wang Lu and Luli. Its eyes revealed a begging look. Wang Lu saw that the other party was already well behaved, so he nodded and said, "Can you speak human language?" The little white dog shook its head in fear. "Don't worry, Bien, you translate." Wang Lu kicked the stupid dog. The stupid dog unwillingly shook its body and spat out the bone. "Really King troublesome?" Then it barked at the little white dog. The little white dog trembled and whimpered for a while, and then pitifully waited for its punishment. Bien pondered for a moment and then said to Wang Lu, "This grandson is called Little White, the spirit pet of that female cultivator. He is willing to surrender, but because of the contract with Master, he can't say anything about Master and the sect." Wang Lu was amused. "This little thing has no moral integrity, surrendering so quickly. As for the contract, Sienair, do it." Luli reached out and touched Little White's head. The little thing suddenly felt a sharp sword intent enter its primordial spirit along the top of its head. However, it cleverly avoided all the vital parts and directly touched an invisible extension line. The next moment, Little White felt its primordial spirit loosen, and a certain force that had bound it for many years disappeared. The contract between it and its master was actually lifted. Lu Li's brilliant sword heart could cut everything in the world, and the contract force of Beastmaster School was naturally no exception. Without the binding of the contract, Little White soon sold out its master's situation without any moral integrity. Wang Lu had no interest in the privacy of the 2 middle-aged women, but their motive for not hesitating to become bandits to intercept the dog was very interesting. In fact, from the beginning, Wang Lu thought that it was not unusual for the Beastmaster School to be hated by the people in the Moral Enlightenment City. However, for the 2 middle-aged women to openly rob the road, there must be some interest driving them. No matter what, the Beastmaster School was still a righteous sect. For their disciples to openly rob a cultivator from an immortal cultivator family, the risk they had to bear was really huge. Without any interest driving them, it was impossible. And from Little White's mouth, Wang Lu learned that the Beastmaster School was recently carrying out a large-scale operation. The entire division from top to bottom, nearly 1,000 people were involved in it. And the big-faced woman and other disciples were assigned a strange task: to collect various kinds of spirit dogs and bring them back to the mountain. Moreover, this task was quite urgent. For this reason, the elder who was in charge of the big-faced woman even clearly said, "As long as it's a good dog, no matter what, bring it back to the mountain, there will be a generous reward. If anything happens, I will take responsibility for it." Forcing a prestigious sect to issue a robbery declaration, It could be seen that the Beast Master School was really in desperate need of spirit dogs. However, this was even more strange. In the Wanxian League, among the tens of thousands of sects, there was probably no one who was better at taming spirit beasts than the Beast Master School. Moreover, the Beast Master School had always been the biggest seller in the spirit beast market, so how could they be in urgent need of spirit dogs? Unfortunately, if he continued to ask, Little White would be powerless. After all, he was just a dog, so he didn't know too much about it. However, this information was enough for Wang Lu. Since the Beast Master School's demand for spirit dogs has reached the level of hunger, then we probably don't need to do anything, the reputation value will come knocking on our door. At the same time, on the Grand Cloud Mountain, Qin Dongji and her junior sister were trembling. Lowering their heads and looking down, they resisted the anger of their master to keep standing. In other words, not only did you fail to bring back that rare breed, you even lost your own spirit dog? A tall and sturdy man with a bare upper body and bulging muscles coldly questioned. Qin Dongji replied with a trembling voice, "Disciple is incompetent and has lost face for the sect. I am willing to accept punishment from the elder." That sturdy man sneered, "Punishment? Even if I dismember the two of you into 10,000 pieces, so what? It sounds nice, but if I really punish you according to the sect rules, you two will still cry and beg me to spare your lives." The senior sister and junior sister's hearts sank, simultaneously considering whether or not they should kneel down and beg for mercy. Forget it, this time the opponent's strength is too much stronger than you. Even my sect's beast taming contract was broken by them, so it's not strange that you are not their match. Only, when did the Celestial Water Lakes U family produce such a strong disciple? The elder muttered to himself, his brows gradually knitted together. The junior sister boldly said, "Master, although those two people are powerful, their cultivation is still low, so there's nothing to worry about. Moreover, they broke the contract thinking that their trick succeeded, but in fact they revealed a flaw. Little White comes from the beast taming school, so it's not difficult for us to trace its position. If we follow the clues, we will definitely be able to find that strange spirit dog." The muscular elder glanced at her. "You're going to find it?" The junior sister was suddenly speechless. This disciple's cultivation is low, I'm afraid they are not their match, so you want me to act? Humph, this kind of aristocratic family's disciple is the most troublesome. If you beat the young one, the old one will come out. Although the rumor says that the Celestial Water Lakes U family is only a marginal aristocratic family, but to be able to cultivate such a disciple, how can it be simple? Right now, our branch's matters are urgent, so there's no need to complicate matters. But it's strange, why did they come to the Grand Cloud Mountain? The junior sister boldly said, "I remember that person said he wanted to find a person called Zen Master Go Ruang." Zen Master Go Ruang? The elder frowned and repeated this name a few times. Suddenly, his expression changed. "Zen Master Go Ruang? F***CK, it's clearly Zen Master Dog Meat, that son of a bitch. You're even giving me an accent? You two, tell me the characteristics of those two people in detail again." After listening to the two female disciples, the elder still had no clue, but after thinking about it, his anger won over his usual caution. "Forget it, let's first capture those two people. If we can hang that bastard, that's naturally the best. If we recognize the wrong person, worst comes to worst, I'll go to Celestial Water Lake to apologize. The Yu family won't be able to say anything." The two female disciples' hearts immediately calmed down, but the junior sister rolled her eyes and asked, "Master, that strange mongrel spirit dog. Their Celestial Water Lake has never been good at beast taming. Giving that rare spirit dog to them is a reckless waste of natural resources. If they really love that spirit dog, they should know the principle of obediently letting go." In other words, after capturing the two of them this time, he naturally wouldn't spit out the spirit hound or whatever. Seeing that her master agreed to help, the big-faced female cultivator immediately raised her eyebrows. Her magical weapon was destroyed by Lu Li's sword, which made her quite distressed. After thinking for a while, she suggested, "Master, I think that Yu Xian's flying sword is also extraordinary. Do you want to?" The elder angrily said, "Our Beast Master School is not a bandit sect. If you want that spirit dog, you still have a good reason to do so, but if you want to take other people's magical weapon for your own use, how do you explain that?" Qin Dongji was immediately dumbfounded. However, the quick-witted junior sister said, "Those two people have a spirit dog and a top-notch magical weapon. Presumably, they are the talented disciples that the Yu family has nurtured. Usually they are arrogant, so they don't know the severity of their actions. It's normal for their magical weapon to be damaged." Upon hearing this, Qin Dongji thought that this was nonsense. However, when she turned around, she saw her master gently smiled without saying anything. Immediately she realized the truth. Then she sighed at the gap between them. No wonder her junior sister's cultivation base was slightly lower than hers, but their cultivation base was basically the same. Moreover, her master liked her more. Well then, let me see how good those two Yu family's geniuses are. After saying that, he stood up. However, at this time, the complexion of this brawny man changed when he heard the summon from the division Great Elder. What? The target has appeared? Okay, I'll go. He turned around and said to the two disciples, Senior brother is looking for me, so I can't refuse. As for you two, forget it, I'll let Silverback accompany you. With that, the elder's feet exerted force and like a cannonball, he soared into the sky and flew away. The two female cultivators were dumbfounded as they watched a gorilla that was taller and sturdier than their master slowly walk in. Each step it took made the room slightly tremble. The gorilla walked to the front of the two female cultivators. His condescending eyes carried a trace of disdain and irritation. The two female cultivators greeted him while trembling with fear. Greetings, Uncle Silverback. I've just heard from Senior Brother. You two lead the way. I'm going to take down those two juniors and that spirit dog. Chapter 179. Beast Master School was famous in 9 regions for controlling spirit beasts. Almost every cultivator in the school had one or even several spirit beasts, but the method of controlling them varied from person to person. Qin Dongji, who used the spirit dog as a tool, still belonged to a relatively low level. When it came to the level of the sturdy elder, his cultivation base had reached the king pill level, and his method of controlling spirit beasts would also change accordingly. First of all, with the improvement of the master's cultivation base, the level of the controlled spirit beast would usually also rise. After all, the master had already reached the king pill level, so the controlled spirit beast's Niden could not be condensed, otherwise it would be useless. Once the level of the spirit beast rose, its wisdom would usually also increase, becoming more human-like and clever. At this point, if the spirit beast continued to be used as a tool, although it was not impossible according to the contract, the instinctive resistance of the spirit beast would greatly weaken the effect. Therefore, usually with the improvement of the spirit beast's level, the master's status would also correspondingly increase. For example, the gorilla in front of Qin Dongji was his master's brother. Even within the Beast Master School, he was officially a cultivator. Except for not being able to hold a high-level management position in the school, the other privileges were almost the same as a human cultivator. The various ideas advocated by Beast Master School might be extreme, and there were many voices of opposition and even ridicule in the 9 regions. However, the sect has been working hard to implement the ideas they propagated, which was why they were recognized and respected by the Union of 10,000 Immortals. The master of Qin Dongji and Qin Dongji was one of the cultivators in the school who advocated equality between humans and beasts. Of course, this equality between humans and beasts was only limited to immortal cultivators. Mortals, of course, were not counted as humans. He and his natal spirit pet called each other brother, treating each other with sincerity. Now that he was summoned by his senior brother, he had no time to get away, so he handed over the task of capturing the 2 people of Yu family to Silverback. And since this huge gorilla could win today's status, its strength naturally could not be underestimated. In terms of the grade of monsters, it was at least a level 4 or 5 monster. Its Niden had long been formed, and it also cultivated the superior cultivation method bestowed by the Beast Master School, so its comprehensive strength could be compared to a high-level Shudan cultivator. Moreover, this spirit beast was born with great strength. Although it didn't have many magical abilities once it got close, even a peak Shudan stage cultivator would have a big headache. Of course, if he encountered a cultivator who was good at fighting, he would naturally have many ways to toy with this gorilla that only had brute force. However, this time, his opponents were only 2 little cultivators who were at most in the Foundation establishment realm. What kind of tricks could they play? Therefore, to Qin Dongji and Yu Yang, even though their master had some matters to attend to and was unable to come out, when they saw their martial uncle Silverback coming out, their hearts felt at ease. They thought to themselves that the Yu clan's 2 reckless fools were going to be in big trouble. On the other side, Wang Lu and Lu Li restarted the Cloud Wave boat and unhurriedly flew toward the eastern direction of the Moral Enlightenment City. In the flying boat Immortal's Cave, Wang Lu set up a barbecue rack with great interest and roasted a wild boar for Lu Li. The little girl beamed with joy and even sang a song. The song was sweet and pleasant, without a lack of childlike interest, but also had an ethereal and clear taste, making people feel as if they were floating in the clouds, feeling refreshed. After the meal, Wang Lu tidied up the remaining skeleton, which he threw to the captive Xiao Bai to gnaw on, while thinking about the next step of the plan. While he was thinking, he suddenly heard Lu Li ask, Senior brother, we seem to be going in the wrong direction. Isn't the Grand Cloud Mountain north of the Moral Enlightenment City? We're going to the east. Wang Lu nodded his head. Not bad, we actually found the north. But you're still stupid. Who said we're going to the Grand Cloud Mountain? Lu Li's eyes widened. Her mind was in a mess. Senior brother, didn't you say you're going to the Grand Cloud Mountain to deliver the letter? How? That's the general direction. But at this stage the Grand Cloud Mountain is so big, can you find Zen Master Go Ruo? Moreover, we've just fought with the Beast Master School, so do you want to run to their headquarters and take the initiative to ask for permission? Right now, regarding Zen Master Go Ruo, the Wanxian League and the Beast Master School are unreliable, so naturally we should look for the original owner of this place, the White Dragon Temple. I don't really understand. Lu Li frankly said, but as long as I listen to you, senior brother, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. This is a Siscon, right? Yes, you're worth teaching, Wang Lu said. His eyes couldn't help but wander around Lu Li's plump chest. This chest is indeed worth giving. No, this is simply becoming a perverted Siscon. I'd better think about how I'm going to open my mouth when I meet the good-for-nothings of the White Dragon Temple. However, before Wang Lu could reopen his train of thought, he saw Little White, who was gnawing the bone, suddenly shivered. Then it revealed a fearful look and barked. Its eyes were eager, as if it was warning something. Wang Lu smiled. He didn't let Bien translate it. Because Little White's action was enough for him to make a judgment. The long-awaited Beastmaster School pursuers have arrived. Descend. Without needing to look, without even needing to confirm the other party's position, Wang Lu launched a spell to descend the Cloud Wave boat. Although he wasn't afraid of the Beastmaster School pursuers in case he accidentally damaged this deluxe version of the Cloud Wave boat, it would be too late for regrets. When the Cloud Wave boat landed, Wang Lu, Lu Li and Quan Zhuhua walked out of the flying boat. Before long, a black shadow, like a meteorite, penetrated the ground from the sky. Bam! A giant beast with a height of more than 3 meters, clad in 100 battle armor and holding a waist-thick silver stick, fiercely examined the opponent in front of it. Its pair of spirit beast eyes quickly saw that the opponent's cultivation base was middle-level foundation establishment. It then let out a beast-like roar and questioned. Are you the ones who injured my Beastmaster School people? Hand over the spirit dog and I'll let you go. Wang Lu burst into laughter. He simply didn't care about the deterrence of the giant beast. Lu Li even clapped her hands and laughed. What a cute monkey. That silverback gorilla froze for a moment, and then suddenly felt a burst of anger. Thereupon, it coldly snorted and slammed the weapon in its hand on the ground. The earth quaked, and a vigorous and violent energy was transmitted from the ground, ready to explode under Wang Lu's feet. Once this power erupted, it would immediately shatter the jade mansions of those 2 middle-level foundation establishment cultivators and shake their primordial spirit. However, Wang Lu took a step forward and firmly stepped on it, just in time to intercept the shock force of the silverback's attack. That Shudan-level attack was stepped on by this foot, trembled for a moment and then collapsed. Unexpectedly, it didn't play any role at all. While the silverback was still in shock, the opponent's counterattack came. Xian Air, take it down. Lu Li very obediently called out her usual flying swords. 2 flaming red swords were held in her hands. The next moment, the girl swiftly thrusted forward, and in a flash she appeared in front of the silverback and slashed the 2 swords together. Such a quick surprise attack surprised the silverback. Fortunately, its cultivation base was profound. At the critical moment, it raised its weapon horizontally in front of the 2 swords, trying to block the opponent's attack and then waiting for an opportunity to counterattack. However, the next moment, the blazing heat from the swords as well as the invincible sharp sword intent, broke its defense with a loud bang, which made every hair on the silverback's body stand up in pain. The innate great strength of the spirit beast allowed it to barely withstand the impact of the opponent's slash. However, after this blow, its 2 thick arms had faintly trembled, and the lingering pain continued to stimulate its primordial spirit, making it extremely painful. As far as its eyes could see, there were 2 deep black slash marks on its beloved weapon. The magical weapon, which was refined from hundreds of kinds of metal refined from underground gold, was almost broken by the opponent's blow. And this was just to resist the opponent's attack. The Silverback simply couldn't imagine how a middle-level foundation establishment cultivator could have such a powerful attack that it, a spirit beast comparable to high-level Shudan, couldn't withstand it. However, before it could exclaim in surprise, an even more shocking thing happened before its eyes. After the first round of slash, the girl unexpectedly turned around and slashed again, and the power was several times stronger than the first strike. In an instant, the Silverback judged that it absolutely could not block the second strike. The opponent's absolute power was not as good as its own, but this sword strike contained a special power that was far beyond its brute force. Although the Silverback couldn't recognize the brilliant sword heart, it was, after all, a battle-hardened spirit beast of the Beast Master School. Thus, it immediately made the right choice. It thrust its blade forward, ignoring the fire sword that was about to reach its body, and assumed a posture of mutual destruction. The Silverback was, after all, a powerful spirit beast that had cultivated for more than 100 years. The timing, direction, and strength of this stab were all just right. Even if it couldn't resist Lu Li's sword, it could at least take her down with it before it died. Even if Lu Li's brilliant sword heart had thousands of variations, in the face of a Shudan stage cultivator's mutual destruction, she had no choice but to retreat. However, Lu Li didn't have the intention to retreat. With her delicate body, she faced the magical weapon of the Silverback. The two swords in her hands set off a raging flame, and then she directly chopped it down. Because she knew that the counterattack of the Silverback would naturally be blocked by someone else. In the past 5 years, when she fought side by side with Wang Lu, she never needed to worry about defense. This time, of course, was no exception. Sure enough, a familiar sword shadow appeared right in front of her. Wang Lu stepped on Lu Li's flying sword, and the sword of Mount Kuan in his hand was as fast as lightning. Although it was launched later, it arrived first and hit the stick in the hand of the Silverback, completely blocking the counterattack force of the Silverback and then feeding it back. On the other side, Lu Li's fiery sword also chopped down. Chapter 180. Gorillas had never been strong and resilient creatures. Compared to those natural predators such as jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards, even if it had a strong physique, its sensitivity and fear of pain and death often made it unable to display its full ability in actual combat. Silverback was a gorilla that had turned into a spirit. Although its cultivation was successful, it still inherited the defects of its biological instincts. Its cultivation was not weak, but its courage, cultivation, and character were not commensurate. It was very afraid of death. And the reason why its master favored it was because it was smarter than other spirit beasts, so it could stand on its own without the need for too much force. And Silverback's reaction was indeed worthy of its master's expectations. The moment it was defeated, it guessed that the two young cultivators before it were likely to be the genius disciples of some big sect. It was impossible for the cultivator clans of Celestial Water Lake to cultivate such powerful foundation establishment cultivators. These two people must have borrowed the identity of Celestial Water Lake clan to go out to gain experience, so Silverback immediately put on a mighty and unyielding martyr image. For those young cultivators who lacked experience and still had unrealistic fantasies about the mortal world, this martyr image was the easiest to win sympathy and the easiest to escape. Although Silverback was a spirit beast, it had gradually become familiar with human nature. Unfortunately, the opponent it encountered this time was obviously not so easy to deceive. Regarding Silverback's method of seeking life in the face of death, Wang Lu's response was to cut off its fingers with his sword and then forcefully step on its head. These two simple actions scattered all the thoughts in Silverback's mind, replacing them with only a thick fear that could not be resolved. Then Wang Lu's indifferent voice came into its ears. From now on I ask you answer. If you can't answer you die. If you play tricks you still die. Silverback nodded again and again, not daring to hesitate in the slightest, let alone talk about any conditions. It could see that compared with its own road robbery, the opponent was obviously more ruthless, more lawless, and that ice-cold killing intent was not the least bit fake. If it was a little careless, the opponent would absolutely dare to kill it. First of all, let's start with something simple. Name, gender, age, position. Silverback, male, orangutan, 136 years old. Wang Lu coldly asked, Okay, next question. I heard that the Beast Master School is collecting rare spirit dogs near the Grand Cloud Mountain. What's the reason? Silverback was startled. He didn't expect that the other party would ask this question instead of anything else. This was the sect's secret, and if it was really leaked out from its mouth then... However, just as Silverback hesitated for a moment, Wang Lu's sword of Mount Kuan was startled and unceremoniously stabbed into Silverback's thick arm. Amidst the beast's miserable howl, blood gushed out like a fountain. You can take your time to think about the wording, but the longer you think, the more blood will flow. Wang Lu's tone was indifferent as he sheathed his sword, but the tip of the sword was pointed at the back of Silverback's neck. Silverback trembled as he opened his mouth to speak, but then he heard Lu Li suddenly frowned and questioned Wang Lu. "Senior brother, I remember it's written in the sex rules that we can't oppress weak creatures." Silverback felt as if it had heard the sound of nature. Even though the heavy injuries on its body were mostly caused by this girl, it still couldn't help but want to praise her 32 times. Well said. How could a righteous disciple abuse the weak? Even if you want to kill it, you can't abuse it. However, in the face of Lu Li's serious questioning, Wang Lu didn't explain too much. Although this result was basically the Beastmaster School's own fault, intercepting them in broad daylight, brazenly trying to snatch the spirit dog, and even made the first move. Moreover, when making the first move, they didn't hesitate to injure or even kill people. For this kind of bandit behavior, using violence to curb violence was already considered very cheap. However, with Lu Li's cognitive ability, why did it need to be so complicated? Wang Lu just smiled. "I'm not abusing it, but cooking." "Cooking?" Lu Li's beautiful eyes widened. Once again she felt that her brain capacity was a bit insufficient. Wang Lu said with a smile, "Orangutan sashimi, have you ever eaten it?" Lu Li awkwardly frowned. "Later on we'll take the monkey's brain. Right now, these are the necessary steps of cooking, absolutely not abusing it. So you can rest assured and wait to eat it." Lu Li's willowy eyebrows stretched out, and then she said with a grin, "I know senior brother is the best, you would never violate the sex rules." Silverback was simply dumbfounded, thinking, no, this is absolutely not right. How can this kind of nonsense explanation pass the test? Which sex rules are so undignified? Unfortunately, before he could think too much, the sword of Mount Kuan had already pierced his body. The intense pain robbed Silverback's ability to think. As a spirit beast that wasn't good at enduring pain, Silverback really couldn't bear it. Therefore he finally divulged the sect's secret. Because we are refining a spiritual treasure-level beast collar, we need to use the spirit of 10,000 dogs. Relying solely on the spirit dogs of the division is far from enough. Therefore we need to collect all the spirit dogs in the vicinity of the Grand Cloud Mountain. Although the strength of the spirit dog around you is not strong, it's a very special breed, which is very valuable for refining spiritual treasure. Therefore no matter what, we have to get it. Wang Lu nodded and slightly withdrew the sword of Mount Kuan. Refining the beast collar requires the spirit of 10,000 dogs? Wang Lu pursed his lips, recalling what he had learned in the 10 Cloud Hall in the past 2 years. In his study plan, the path of tool refining would only be strengthened after he reached the Shudan stage, so he didn't study it too deeply. However, according to his basic common sense, what Silverback said should be true. The most important magic weapon of the Beastmaster School to tame spirit beasts was the beast collar. Once the spirit beast was hooked, its magical power and primordial spirit would be involuntarily controlled and could only be at the mercy of others. This was a magic weapon used by the Beastmaster School to deal with spirit beasts that were difficult to tame. However, the beast collar was certainly not omnipotent. The more magical and powerful the spirit beast was, the more difficult it was to tame it. For example, it was very difficult to use a magical tool-level beast collar on Silverback. However, this time, the Beastmaster School wanted to refine a spiritual treasure. In the end, what kind of spirit beast was worth using a spiritual treasure to trap? What's more, it was indicated that the beast collar had to be refined with the spirituality of a spirit dog. This kind of beast collar targeted at a special breed was far more effective than versatile. In conclusion, could it be that the Beastmaster School wanted to catch the howling celestial dog? When Wang Lu threw this question to Silverback, the gorilla cursed in his heart. He had deliberately avoided this question and only talked about the beast collar. But he didn't expect the other to immediately ask. However, if he continued, it would seriously harm the school's interests. Silverback hesitated for a long time, not daring to open his mouth. Who knew that Silverback's hesitation made Wang Lu's eyes light up? Oh, you're hesitating and don't dare to speak? It seems this is the core problem. Combining the existing conditions, I guess you found a rare spirit dog on the Grand Cloud Mountain. Perhaps its strength is not strong and its grade is not high, but it's especially good at hiding and escaping. Your division has many spiritual masters, but they can't do anything about it. Therefore you came up with the idea of refining the beast collar. You want to use the spiritual treasure level beast collar to suppress the dog-type spirit beasts within a radius of 100 miles, so as to limit its mobility. Under the horrified eyes of Silverback, Wang Lu continued to speculate, for your Beast Master School to muster such a large force, not even hesitating to become a bandit. It's probably because you want to end this quickly and can't afford to delay. Why do you want to end the battle quickly? Are you worried that someone will obstruct you? Why are you worried that someone will obstruct you? Because that spirit dog is also of great value to other schools, so much so that they don't hesitate to oppose your Beast Master School? So, if I'm not mistaken, it should be a super high-level young spirit beast? Or maybe it's an immortal beast. As the silverback gorilla's heart gradually turned cold, Wang Lu chuckled. Although my guess may not be accurate, I think whether it's the White Dragon Temple, Gentle Cloud Mountain, or even the dozens of immortal cultivation sects within the Grand Cloud Empire, they would all be very interested in my guess. A young immortal beast, even the 5 uniques of the Wanxian League won't be indifferent. So, why don't you take a guess if I were to spread this news, what kind of miracle would happen? The next moment, a heavy voice burst from the sky. If you really want to do this, I guarantee you won't live past today. Hearing this voice, the silverback gorilla's face stiffened, and then it was uncontrollable ecstasy. At the same time, hiding in the distance, Qin Dongji and Li Yingying, who had witnessed the whole process with trepidation, could not help but cheer, "Master." It was the Beast Master School's King Pill Elder who sensed that Silverback was in danger through the Spirit Beast contract. "Let go of Silverback and surrender, and I'll spare your life." When he spoke, the Elder was still dozens of miles away, but his voice had already passed over first, and it was wrapped in the pure magical power of Taoist Master King Pill. As the sound waves rolled, the vibrating force directly penetrated into the opponent's Jade Mansion, trying to shake the primordial spirit. The Fire Thunder incantation of Elder from a high-rank sect, King Pill, could hurt people even dozens of miles away. Regarding Taoist Master King Pill's preemptive strike, Wang Lu just casually brandished the sword of Mount Kuan. The invisible non-phase sword Qi drew out his sword defense, encircling Lu Li and the mottled dog. That sound wave disintegrated at the edge of the sword defense. Wang Lu propped up his defense, carefully savoring the countershock force from the sword tip. He had already judged that the opponent was a genuine Taoist Master King Pill. Although it was only a low-rank King Pill, and the quality of King Pill was not too good for the 2 foundation establishment stage like them, it was still a terrifying opponent. At this time, Silverback, who was stepped on the ground, lowered its head, hiding the ominous glint in its eyes. Wang Lu was indeed formidable to be able to block the Fire Thunder incantation. However, as soon as its master came closer with the Beast Master School's secret method, it could instantly break free. Man and beast fusion would increase its master's strength, which would then be able to easily take down these 2 foundation establishment stage insects. As for Wang Lu, he was still not in a hurry. After offsetting the Fire Thunder incantation, he pointed the sword of Mount Kuan toward the direction of the sound. Is that the Joker invited by the monkey? At the same time, his left hand made a gesture toward Lu Li. The girl's face showed a trace of surprise, but her hand's movement was as fast as lightning. The fiery sword flew out of her hand and went straight down from the top of Silverback's head, immediately taking its life. However, that gorilla's strange smile was still hanging on its face. "How dare you? You're courting death." Immediately followed by Elder King Pill's thunderous fury, which soared to the sky and dyed the entire sky with the color of the setting sun. Wang Lu inwardly sneered, "Do you think I'm a fool? Who doesn't know that the cultivators of Beast Master School have the strongest fighting power when they join hands with the beast? If I don't take advantage of the time when you're separated to deal with one side first, then when you're together we'll fall into a bitter fight. Therefore I'll break your arm first and then you can play with your bird alone, you fool." Chapter 181. When the news of Silverback's death came from the primordial spirit contract, the corresponding punishment was also fed back to its master. In an instant, Elder Chi-Ho felt as if he was in a sea of fire. His primordial spirit violently trembled as if it was about to melt on the spot. This was the punishment of the contract. When he enjoyed the convenience of the spirit pet as the master, he also had to bear the responsibility of guarding the spirit pet. A moment of carelessness caused him to lose his right-hand man. The resentment of Silverback's death was fed back through the contract, making him feel so much pain that he wished he was dead. As if it was only a trivial moment, but also as if it had been a long time, Chi-Ho's whole body trembled as he passed through the punishment of the contract. In addition to the pain, there was also ferociousness on his face. "Those 2 bastards must die. Moreover, they must die in the most painful and cruel way. After death, their bones would be ground into ashes, their primordial spirit would be extracted and put into the furnace to suffer eternal suffering. They dared to kill Silverback. No matter how big their background was, they couldn't stop his revenge. Elder Chi-Ho clenched his teeth. His anger had long been boiling. However, on the other hand, under the flame refinement, his fire element heart was exceptionally calm, so that he didn't lose his mind. Instead, he was more clear-headed in analyzing the situation. This time, it was indeed their side that made a mistake. At first, they only thought that they were elite disciples trained by the Yu family of Celestial Water Lake. Therefore, they didn't care about Silverback, who was not particularly good at fighting. Who knew that this mistake in judgment would actually send Silverback's life? It was just that, seeing Wang Lu's sword defense to resist the Fire Thunder incantation, as well as Lu Li's unstoppable flying sword, she knew that these two people were definitely not people that could be cultivated by the Yu family of Celestial Water Lake. It was very likely that they were the successor disciples of the first-rank sections. The so-called Yu family of Celestial Water Lake. Either this family had some dogshit luck, and their disciples were taken in by the big sects, or this signboard was simply a cover, and these two people were just used to hide their identity. In a place like Cloud Region, the title of genius disciple of a big sect brought convenience, but it was also accompanied by considerable risk. Because everyone knew that genius disciples were priceless. Not only because of the sect treasures they carried on their bodies, but also because of these genius disciples' top-grade spirit roots, it was enough to turn them into walking human-shaped nourishing pills. Many evil cultivators loved to pluck these genius disciples to nourish themselves. Since he recognized that the opponent's background was not ordinary, Chi-Ho put away the contempt in his heart. At the same time, he also knew that this battle could not be rushed. A disciple of such a large sect would definitely have a life-saving item given to him by the sect. It would either be something like the escape talisman that could allow him to escape quickly, or something like the golden bell shield that could set up an absolute defense, or he would simply have an essence soul avatar of the sect's elders following him. However, no matter which one it was a trump card that he would not use unless it was absolutely necessary. Once he used it, he might be able to successfully overcome the current crisis, but his trip down the mountain could be considered to have come to an end. What Chi-Ho wanted to do was to make the opponent have no time to bring out these cards. As for the method, it was best to use the tactic of boiling a frog in warm water. Drag the opponent into a protracted battle and deliberately reveal flaws to make them think that victory was in their grasp. Then, thinking of this, Chi-Ho slightly converged his own magical power. Although his strength had declined greatly after losing Silverback, the King Pill realm was still there. How hard could it be to deal with two Foundation establishment cultivators? After all, he didn't personally witness the defeat of Silverback. Thus, he only calculated that if he didn't restrain himself a bit, perhaps in 3 to 5 moves, he would be able to force the opponent into a desperate situation. Then two dazzling fiery red sword lights completely interrupted his thinking. Chi-Ho was extremely surprised to see Lu Li rapidly approaching him. It was hard to believe that a mere Foundation establishment girl actually dared to so arrogantly take the initiative to attack, and even more difficult to believe that a mere Foundation establishment girl could actually wield such a sharp sword intent. The sword tip has yet to arrive, but that unstoppable brilliant sword intent has already directly penetrated Chi-Ho's magical power protection and touched his primordial spirit. Even though Chi-Ho's cultivation base was far superior to the opponent's, and his primordial spirit strength, he still felt an unbearable pain in an instant. Chi-Ho immediately resorted to a beast skull that was covered with blood-colored war tattoos. The eyes of the skull bloomed with brilliant light, which shone on Chi-Ho's naked upper body. A ferocious aura came from this ancient beast skull and poured into Chi-Ho's body along the war tattoos. Immediately, his bones elongated, his muscles swelled, and he turned into a half-man half-beast monster that roared and pounced. Oh, is this the beast transformation of Beastmaster School? Xian'er, go all out. Seeing this change, Wang Lu sent out a command with his eyes. Without hesitation, Lu Li released the 10 flying swords that were hidden in her sleeves and gathered them around the 2 swords. Her attack power rose to another level. Her pair of eyes that were filled with innocence also became as indifferent as ice, and her brilliant sword heart began to operate at full force. As for Wang Lu himself, one of his hands wrapped around Lu Li's slender waist, while the other hand held his sword. The thick and heavy sword body was wrapped in sword momentum, like an indestructible shield. A moment later, a collision occurred. Lu Li's full strength thrust the 2 swords against Chi-Ho's chest. His bronze skin, soaked in sweat, blossomed with a metallic brilliance. With a sharp piercing sound, the two fiery swords drew a string of sparks on his chest, leaving behind two scorch marks. However, they couldn't really break the skin and hurt the muscle. The defensive power of Taoist Master King Pill was beyond doubt. Lu Li's ever-successful brilliant sword heart couldn't even penetrate the outermost defense of his body, and the sword intent that was aimed at his primordial spirit was also neutralized by his boiling fighting intent. At the same time, Lu Li felt that the world turned dark, and a terrifying shadow fell from the sky. It was the giant beast's skull that was enlarged thousands of times. 2 rows of sharp teeth were on her head, which then fiercely bit down. However, Lu Li didn't even look at the approaching death. With a flick of her wrist, she let go of the fiery sword and then grabbed the 7th metal sword from the side. She then turned around and stabbed again. Her movement was as smooth as floating clouds and flowing water. However, the power of the 2 swords was comparable to the first burst of thunder, inconceivably fast. With 2 loud noises, Lu Li's 7th metal sword fiercely hit the opponent, and the 2 rows of sharp teeth of the giant beast's skull also fiercely closed. Finally, a drop of blood oozed out from Chiho's chest. However, the giant beast's skull that he used to counterattack was firmly opened by 2 powerful arms. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't close it. Wang Lu tried his best to open up a space for Lu Li. Although it wasn't big, it was enough for the girl to turn her waist, borrow the momentum, and then replace the 2 lightning-flashing flying swords. When she attacked again, her power had gone up another notch. Chiho's countenance finally changed. Lu Li's continuous sword strikes had no interval for her to catch her breath. Each sword strike was more powerful than the previous one, and it seemed to be endless. Although his stage was higher than her by a stage and a half, if he continued like this, perhaps he would only be able to receive 2 sword strikes at most before his foundation would be injured. Originally, he intended to use the method of boiling the frog in warm water to numb the opponent bit by bit, and then wait for the opportunity to strike, so that the opponent would have no room for resistance. However, who would have thought that after 2 or 3 moves, there was actually a faint sign of defeat? On the other side, perhaps the ancient beast's skull had lost its power from tens of thousands of years ago, but its bite force was enough to cut gold and break jade. How could a small foundation establishment stage cultivator withstand it with her body alone? However, as long as Wang Lu's 2 hands supported him, the 7 feet space was unbreakable. After the 3rd collision, blood spilled from the corner of Wang Lu's mouth. However, Lu Li's wind and thunder sword also made Chiho's face show a trace of unnatural redness. Senior brother, the 8th level of King Pill -5, I only need 3 more sword strikes to defeat the opponent. When she turned around for the 3rd time, Lu Li's clear and cold eyes revealed her instinctive judgment. Wang Lu nodded, took a deep breath, and suppressed the unceasingly shaking Jade Mansion. Sure enough, Chiho wasn't in his best condition. Instructing Lu Li to kill Silverback with 1 sword strike was indeed the right decision. Not only did it cut off Chiho's opportunity to merge with his beast, it also destroyed his beast taming contract, causing his strength to be greatly reduced by the backlash. Although he had the King Pill stage, he couldn't fully display his ability. Otherwise, even if his real ability was to merge with his beast, his fighting power would be greatly reduced. However, since he came from a 3rd-rank sect, his comprehensive strength shouldn't have fallen to the level of -5. Good kid, you've pushed me too far. How could Chiho, the dignified Taoist master of the King Pill stage, sit still and wait for death? The ominous glint in his eyes was even more flourishing as he roared, "White teeth, come out." Wang Lu also roared, "Quanzhou Hua." Knowing that Chiho's card wasn't just the beast transformation, Wang Lu didn't let the stupid dog make its move. At this time, hearing Chiho's roar, he immediately pulled out his own card. The stupid dog roared, its nose slightly trembled, and then it rushed to a certain place. Even though his trump card was being countered, Chiho only had a cruel sneer on his face. The next moment, his body swelled up by 3 times, and a blood-red battle pattern appeared on his cheeks. His aura doubled in strength. It was as if there was a steady stream of power pouring into his body. Damn immortal mode? As the top student of Spirit Sword Sect, Wang Lu could see through Chiho's means at a glance. This King Pill Elder's quality was really not something that the inferior King Pill Elder could compare to. In addition to Silverback, he also had other spirit pets, it was just that he didn't bring them with him. During the fight, that spirit pet would hide in the distance. Once it was called, it would immediately use the secret technique of Beastmaster School to absorb the surrounding spiritual energy and transform it into pure magical power, which would then be transferred to Chi-Ho, allowing his power to surge. In Wang Lu's view, wasn't this method of inhaling and exhaling spiritual energy exactly the immortal mode? Lu Li didn't need to test the strength of the opponent in immortal mode. Wang Lu could already guess it. He immediately reached out and patted Lu Li's shoulder and then roared, "Withdraw." When the girl turned around for the fourth time upon hearing this, she suddenly paused and her movements slowed down. Seeing this, Chi-Ho wildly laughed. "Wanna run?" Too late. Nobody knew when, but the skull of the ancient ferocious beast had been enlarged thousands of times, forming a huge cage that covered the sky, trapping the three of them inside. With this skull as a restraint, Chi-Ho wasn't afraid that the opponent could escape. Even if Lu Li used her full strength to slash it, without 3 to 5 strikes she wouldn't be able to break the skull. Not to mention, how could Chi-Ho let the opponent break the skull? However, the next moment, in Chi-Ho's astonished eyes, Lu Li suddenly accelerated after turning around for the fourth time. The two blazing swords in her hands thrust straight at him, carrying an unprecedentedly strong sword intent that was unstoppable. Damn it, I've been tricked. Just as he thought of this, the fiery sword has already heavily stabbed Chi-Ho's throat. The magical power of the fire element on the sword and the incomparably sharp sword intent poured out from the tip of the sword. The power of this sword strike had firmly reached the level of King Pill. However, after this sword strike, Chi-Ho was forced to retreat several steps. His complexion changed and his throat was scorched black. However, very soon new granulation squirmed out from the wound, showing that Chi-Ho didn't suffer too serious of an injury. In immortal mode, Chi-Ho's defensive ability was far from what it used to be. No matter how strong Lu Li's brilliant sword heart was, she couldn't get rid of the restriction of high-level foundation establishment. She couldn't even condense her Shudan, thus in the face of the Taoist master of King Pill, she was somewhat powerless. Chi-Ho coughed out several mouthfuls of blood. Looking inside, his jade mansion has been damaged in several corners. Inwardly, he was shocked, thinking, I wonder how many high-level foundation establishment cultivators with such powerful attack power can be found in the 9 regions? The other party most likely concealed their cultivation base, otherwise, it would be impossible for them to be this sharp. However, this was the end of it. If the opponent wanted to win, they must first unlock their own immortal mode, causing their strengthened attack and defense to fall again. And if they wanted to unlock their immortal mode, they must defeat their own spirit pet, White Teeth. The spirit dog sent by Wang Lu might have an excellent bloodline, but its current strength was not strong, far from being the opponent of White Teeth. At this time, White Teeth might have already captured Wang Lu's modeled dog. As long as he defeated the opponent in front of him, he would be able to declare his victory in this fight. And the immortal mode Taoist master of King Pill, facing 2 middle-level and high-level foundation establishment cultivators, had an overwhelming advantage. At this time, looking at Wang Lu and Lu Li, Chi-Ho seemed to be sizing up his spoils of war. Especially Lu Li, which made people involuntarily look at her. However, at this time, a mournful dog bark suddenly came from afar. The sound was full of fear and panic. Chi-Ho's complexion changed as he recognized that it was the voice of White Teeth. What the hell? What is the origin of that modeled dog that even White Teeth couldn't take it down? It must be known that White Teeth was stronger than Silverback. If not because he didn't like dogs, his spirit pet should have been White Teeth. The next moment, a burst of complacent laughter came from the air. Chi-Ho's complexion turned even uglier, because the answer has been revealed. Haha, what a fat and lean big black dog. Tonight, I'm going to eat to my heart's content. Zen Master Guru, you son of a bitch. Just as his anger rose, Chi-Ho spurted out a mouthful of blood. White Teeth was already dead. Chapter 182. Go all out. Almost at the same time when Chi-Ho vomited blood, Wang Lu made his judgment. Lu Li took a deep breath. Ignoring the fact that her magical power had been depleted due to her continuous outburst just now, she just strictly followed Wang Lu's instruction. She raised her last bit of strength, turned around and swung her sword. Then the girl saw Chi-Ho's eyes that were full of humiliation and unwillingness. The dignified Taoist master of the King Pill was actually forced to the point of no return. Chi-Ho clenched his teeth and activated a talisman on his body. Escape talisman. Before the fight, Chi-Ho was still calculating how to intercept the opponent if she used something similar to the escape talisman. However, unexpectedly after a fierce fight, the one who used the escape talisman turned out to be himself. The dignified King Pill had to flee in defeat in front of 2 foundation establishment cultivators. This humiliation would probably be difficult to wash off in his lifetime. However, no matter how humiliating it was, living was better than dying. After losing 2 spirit pets in succession, Chiho's strength had fallen to the lowest point. Since he mastered the King Pill, he had never been this weak. The omnipotent King Pill in the middle of his jade mansion was dim, and vaguely, there was even a tendency to disintegrate. That was a sign that his cultivation base was greatly damaged, a sign that he would fall back to shoot on stage. In this case, there was no need to consider what kind of recuperation he would have to go through to recover. Lu Li's final blow alone was something that he absolutely couldn't withstand. Therefore, he decisively activated the escape talisman. However, the next moment, in Chiho's shocked and angry eyes, he saw Lu Li's 2 swords turned into a group of shadows, which seemed real and illusory at the same time. However, it actually chopped an inch in front of Chiho, cutting off an invisible connection. That was the connection line between Chiho and the ancient vicious beast skull. Lu Li's sword could cut through all things. Unexpectedly, while the opposite party was unprepared, her sword actually cut off the connection between Chiho and the skull. The interruption of this connection was originally not a problem. As the owner, Chiho only needed a breath's time to re-establish the connection. However, now, Chiho didn't even have a breath's time to activate the escape talisman. His huge figure, in a split second, turned into a ray of light, flew to the sky, and in the blink of an eye, disappeared on the horizon. As soon as Chiho left, the huge skull lost its source of magical power. It suddenly shrank back to its original position and fell to the ground with a rumbling sound. Wang Lu conveniently picked up the skull. This was the first valuable loot since he went down the mountain for experiential learning. Although the grade was not high, just a high-rank magical treasure, its commemorative value was different. This was the loot from the fierce fight between Wang Lu and Lu Li, who were still in Foundation establishment stage, against Taoist Master King Pill. However, Wang Lu didn't have the time to carefully play with it. He pulled Lu Li and went in the direction of the stupid dog. Although he didn't witness the incident just now, he could guess that there must be a kind-hearted passerby who pulled out a sword to help and directly beheaded White Teeth. Only then did Chiho leave with hatred in his heart. Now the first thing he needed to do was to meet that kind-hearted passerby. Previously, that person shouted that he wanted to stew the big black dog for dinner. Obviously he had a soft spot for dog meat. And although Hua, that stupid dog, was stupid and small in size, its meat quality. Passing through several clumps of woods, Wang Lu saw a kind-hearted passerby next to a stream. Unexpectedly, the one who caught his eye was a young woman who looked about 25 or 26 years old. She was tall and had picturesque facial features. She wore a luxurious purple dress, which gave her a somewhat noble and otherworldly temperament. However, her smile seemed a lot more approachable. Her body's magical power fluctuation was completely restrained, making it impossible to see the depth of her cultivation base. Unexpectedly, the chivalrous person who saw injustice was actually a woman. Wang Lu was slightly startled. Especially when he saw that the woman was single-handedly carrying a rather large black dog, sizing it up and down with a smile on her face. This sense of incongruity became even heavier. However, thinking of the other party's help just now, Wang Lu still followed the etiquette rules learned in the Tengyun Hall and solemnly saluted. "I am Yu Lu of the Celestial Water Lake. This is my junior sister Yu Xian. Thank you for your help just now." The woman smiled and waved her hand. "Don't mention it. I mainly wanted to solve the problem of dinner. Moreover, even without my help, your spirit pet wouldn't have lost." As she spoke, she had already taken out a knife and cut open the belly of the black spirit dog, White Teeth. Then she began to cook it on the spot with the stream water. Her movements were skillful and swift. The quality of this black dog is really not bad. It is fate that we met. If you don't mind, why don't you taste my cooking later? I might not dare to say anything else, but in terms of cooking dog meat, there are not many people in the entire Yunzhou who can compare to me. This woman was frank, generous, and hospitable. Wang Lu looked at her for a long time, but he didn't find any trace of falsehood on her face. He couldn't help but smile. "Then I will be indebted to your hospitality." "Good, you are straightforward enough." I found that there are a lot of people in this Yuntai mountain who, as soon as they hear that they can eat dog meat, can't wait to cut people into pieces. Really, it's not like they are eating the meat of their parents, it's really interesting. Wang Lu said, "It's just a joke, why do you care?" As he spoke, he looked around looking for his modeled dog. He thought to himself, "This stupid dog has stupid luck. It shouldn't have been smothered by the swordswoman, right? Looking for your dog? It is hiding over there and doesn't dare to see me. Just now it was about to swallow this rare big black dog. In order to avoid wasting God's gift, I scared it. Oh, don't worry, no matter how greedy I am, it's impossible for me to cook and eat the descendant of Fenrir. Wang Lu was shocked. This woman knows Fenrir? The woman raised her head and smiled. I have eaten a lot of dog meat, so I have done some research on similar animals. However, to be able to raise Fenrir as a pet, you and the little sister over there shouldn't be from Tianshui Lake, right? After his lie was exposed, Wang Lu shrugged his shoulders. In Jianghu it's important to be low-key. Very well, let me introduce myself again. I am Wang Lu, and this is Lu Li from Spirit Sword Mountain in Blue River region. Oh, I am Xiao Qi, you can just call me Qinyang? Halfway through her words, the woman stood up in surprise. You are disciples of Lingjian school? Then it's really fate. Do you know a guy named Wang Wu? We old friends haven't seen each other for many years. This time it was Wang Lu's turn to be surprised. It was not unusual for a Lingjian school cultivator to have friends outside, but that bitch Wang Wu actually had friends. This was too inconceivable. Besides making enemies, what else could she do? Thinking of this, Wang Lu's thoughts turned again. Could it be? Although this speculation was absurd according to common sense, thinking that she was his master's friend, Wang Lu felt a bit relieved. Excuse me, do you know Zen Master Go Ruo? Xiao Qi blinked. Zen Master Go Ruo? That's me. Wang Lu sighed. Looking at the fresh dog meat in the woman's hand that had already been cut into pieces, he guessed that the so-called Zen Master Go Ruo was probably Zen Master Guru. However, why did such a beautiful woman have the title of Zen Master? Qinyang, are you a Zen cultivator? Xiao Qi tilted her head and thought for a moment. I don't think so. You have a profound Zen method and you're familiar with Zen scriptures? Xiao Qi waved her hand. Who's interested in that stuff? Wang Lu sighed. She was indeed a person who had drunk wine and meat for a long time. Then why do you call yourself Zen Master? Xiao Qi blinked. Because I'm really gluttonous. It turned out to be a gluttonous master. You're simply a scammer, okay? Xiao Qi indifferently said, but to say it, I do have some relationship with Zen, so some people like to call me Zen Master Guru. For the time being, I'll admit it. With that, she looked at Wang Lu. Are you Wang Wu's disciple? Wang Lu thought that since the other party was his master's friend, it was not surprising for her to see his origin. The magical power fluctuation of non-phase method was very special. Although the version that Wang Lu and Wang Wu practiced was different, it was still the same. Exactly. Wang Lu replied. That's good. Last time when we parted, she borrowed 200,000 spirit stones from me. You're her disciple, shouldn't you pay for your master's debt? Wang Lu did not hesitate. No way. Xiao Qi was silent for a moment. Don't you want to show your filial piety to your master? Looking at your cultivation base, Wang Wu should have spent a lot of effort on you in the past few years, so you ought to repay her. Or is it that you have inherited the glorious but poor tradition of non-phase peak that you are powerless? Wang Lu earnestly replied, money I do have it. Although I don't dare to say that I'm rich, there's no pressure to pay for her debt. However, it's for her sake that this debt can't be paid. Xiao Qi was so angry that he wanted to laugh. You non-phase peak master and disciple are really carved from the same mold. Why don't you tell me why you can't pay it back? Because once this starts, there will be no end to it. I believe that master's debt should be a habit. Creditors are everywhere in the world. If they heard that I'm willing to pay for her debt, I'm afraid they will immediately flock to me. Xiao Qi laughed. Are you afraid that you can't pay it back? I'm afraid that after I pay it back, master would think that a pie fell from the sky and turn around to borrow money. Right now, she has a bad debt, and her credit value has long fallen below the bottom line. I believe no one would be willing to lend her money. However, if the debt is paid off and her credit rating returns to normal, I think it's not difficult to imagine what she would do. That's a bottomless pit. Xiao Qi was suddenly silent. Very well, I admit that what you said is reasonable. Later on, when I have time, I will find her face to face to collect the debt. In order to further distract her, Wang Lu changed the topic. This is the letter that master asked me to bring to you. Seven took the letter and casually opened it. Her eyes lit up and she finished reading it. A smile appeared on her delicate face. Wang Lu didn't need to guess to know that his master certainly didn't write anything good in the letter. Your master said that the model dog you brought is a strange beast from the western continent, Fenrir. If I can deceive that Fenrir and sell it, we can split the profit 50-50. Chapter 183. There's something I want to ask of you. Over at the Grand Cloud Mountain, the Beast Master School bastards have built a branch. It looks very unsightly. Help me think of a way to eradicate it. While speaking, Xiaoqi's expression became incomparably indifferent. Although he had already anticipated that this gluttonous master dog meat would inevitably be at odds with the Beast Master School who advocated equality between humans and beasts, Wang Lu did not expect the contradiction between the two to be this sharp. Senior Xiaoqi looked delicate and handsome, with a kind and amiable temperament, but the moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to exterminate the entire branch. Sure enough, a woman's heart is the most poisonous. Hey, I only want to exterminate the branch, I didn't say I want to exterminate their entire clan. Don't act too fiercely. Wang Lu shrugged his shoulders. Do you mind telling me how Senior became enemies with them? Xiaoqi hesitated for a moment, then softly said, in fact it's not a big deal. The Beast Master School collected several thousand spirit dogs on the Grand Cloud Mountain to refine beast collars. Then when I passed by, I ate more than half of those spirit dogs, so we became enemies. Several of their elders unceasingly chased me, and after several fights, the enmity grew bigger and bigger. Wang Lu could not help but sigh. You really King deserve it? Liking to eat dog meat was one thing, this was a personal hobby, a personal freedom. Unscrupulously eating dog meat in the Beast Master School's territory was already a public slap in the face, quite impolite. But considering that eating meat was the norm around the Grand Cloud Mountain, and it was the Beast Master School who forcefully reversed the public opinion, it was fine. But this guy actually directly ate the spirit dogs that other people had painstakingly collected. What was the difference between this and directly coming to someone's house to defile their wife? The Beast Master School was not a good person, how could they tolerate it? It would be strange if they did not become enemies. At this time, looking at this hearty and good-natured senior, Wang Lu could not help but sigh with emotion. To be able to become good friends with his master, there was no way his personality was not twisted. As for helping to flatten the branch? To be honest, on this trip to the Grand Cloud Mountain, Wang Lu was indeed planning to earn some reputation points from the Beast Master School, but he didn't want to earn his sin points as well. After all, the Beast Master School was still a righteous sect. In the past, during the Great War of Immortals and Devils, they had made great contributions. Although many of the school's ideas were extreme and undesirable, and the quality of the disciples was also mixed. For example, Elder Chiho, who tried to extort the Quanzhou, strictly speaking, had already committed an evil act. But you can hate them and secretly set some obstacles, but in the end you can't brazenly go to their front door. Seeing the frown on Wang Lu's face, Xiaoqi only smiled. How about this, you come with me and see the situation of the Beast Taming School's division. If you don't want to help, I won't force you. When Wang Lu heard this, he frowned even tighter. Qinyang meant that there was something hidden behind it? Fine, I'll let her experience it then. With Xiaoqi leading the way, the group of people flew in the direction of the Grand Cloud Mountain. As a good friend of Wang Wu, Xiaoqi dared to challenge an expert of the Beast Taming School's division by himself, so her magical power was naturally not bad. According to Wang Lu's estimation, she was at least at the level of King Pill. She alone carried 2 people and a dog, and her speed was not much slower than Wang Lu's Cloud Wave boat. When they were close to the Grand Cloud Mountain, Xiaoqi took the initiative to descend, and used a technique to cover up their bodies, smell and other traces. Then, using his primordial spirit, he said, "Follow me, don't make any noise." Xiaoqi's concealment technique was very powerful. The group of 3 people quickly walked through the mountain forest, and very soon they entered the boundary of the Beast Taming School's division, but they didn't trigger the Beast Taming School's early warning formation. The Grand Cloud Mountain had been operated by the Beast Taming School for about a year. Even though it couldn't be said to be filled with killing intent at every step, there were still a lot of mechanisms and formations. But Xiaoqi was very familiar with the road, so they walked as if they were walking on flat ground. Occasionally they would come across a patrolling Beast Taming School disciple, but their group would just stroll past them, and unexpectedly, the other party didn't notice anything unusual. It was reasonable to say that the Beast Taming School had many spirit beasts, and the 5 senses of spirit beasts were far stronger than that of ordinary cultivators. So, the interior of the division should be the most heavily guarded. But until Wang Lu and the others arrived at a call in the hinterland of the Grand Cloud Mountain, they were not discovered by anyone. And in the call, Wang Lu saw an astonishing scene. No less than several thousand spirit dogs were gathered in the call, and the small space seemed to be very crowded. These spirit dogs all had special collars tied around their necks. The Beast Taming School's collars were supposed to be magical tools to nourish the body and primordial spirit, but if one looked carefully, one could clearly see a subtle flow of life from the spirit dogs' bodies to the collars, and then it was gathered and transported by the formation in the call to a distant place. These collars were simply plundering the life energy. At this time in the call, most of the spirit dogs seemed to be dispirited and listless. Similarly, the nature of the heaven and earth spiritual energy in this place was also unpleasant. With Wang Lu's void spiritual root, he could clearly see a withered yellow color, as if the fire of life was about to be extinguished in despair. Among these several thousand spirit dogs, there was no lack of sick and injured ones, but the beast taming school did not give them any treatment, leaving them to fend for themselves. And even if it was a spirit dog with a strong physique, living in this kind of lifeless call, with its life force constantly being sucked away, was still a dead end, not to mention those sick and injured ones. Xiaoqi turned his head and asked, "How do you feel?" "I feel like I can understand your way of doing things." Xiaoqi said, "In order to catch young immortal beasts, the beast taming school gathered tens of thousands of spirit dogs to refine the spirit treasure beast taming collar. This is not a problem, but the refining process may cause certain harm to the spirit dogs, and this is also not a problem. However, this kind of bone-crushing, bone-sucking exploitation is really rare. This division elder's method of refining the beast taming collar is unconventional, refining the negative emotions of tens of thousands of spirit dogs. Therefore, he forced these tens of thousands of spirit dogs into a bad situation, constantly producing pain, despair, and other emotions, and then extracted them with the collar and special array, turning them into spiritual treasure materials. Fortunately, it's the dogs that provide the materials, not people. Otherwise, based on this scene alone, the Wanxian League would not turn a blind eye, and the law enforcement team would have long come to kill them." Wang Lu slowly nodded, lost in thought. Luli couldn't stand it anymore. Her clear eyes sparkled with tears. Why are they so cruel? Don't the beast taming school love their spirit beasts?" Xiaoqi smiled. "The beast taming school people love their spirit beasts? That's a big joke. Carefully think about the name of their school. It's beast taming school, not beast loving school. If they really love their spirit beasts, how could they put them above their spirit beast? How could they put a collar on their spirit beast?" Luli still found it difficult to understand. "They preach in the moral enlightenment city too," Xiaoqi sneered and interrupted her. "Vegetarianism? What's even more ridiculous is that there are many kinds of spirit beasts, and quite a few of them are natural carnivores, unable to digest vegetarian food. When the beast taming school raised these spirit beasts, how do they feed them? Isn't it by slaughtering them to provide fresh meat? They just prohibit mortals from eating meat. In their eyes, mortals are even worse than animals. Not to mention most of the division elders are cats, and they're hostile to spirit dogs. In short, remember, among the tens of thousands of cultivators in the beast taming school, there's no lack of great cultivators who have a heart of universal love. However, in recent years this school has expanded too fast, and there are crooks and honest people mixed in the school. There's no lack of these bastards on the Grand Cloud Mountain. Otherwise, why do you think they can't stay in the southern heaven region and have to come to the cloud region to survive?" Luli was still puzzled. Obviously she couldn't understand. Therefore Wang Lu patted her head. "Remember these three conclusions. First, the beast taming school people are lying. Second, therefore these beast taming school people are not good people. Third, therefore when we kill them we don't need to have any guilt and hesitation." Luli thought for a moment and then nodded. "I understand." The nearby Xiaoqi was surprised and asked, "This child?" Wang Lu stretched out his hand and circled around his head. Xiaoqi suddenly revealed a look of understanding, and then looked at Luli with a bit of sympathy. "In short, the situation is like what you see. The last time I passed by here what I saw was even more tragic than this." Wang Lu asked, "So you ate the dogs?" Xiaoqi indifferently shrugged. "What else can I do? Being put on the beast taming collar and having their primordial spirit refined by this life vitality gathering array is basically a dead end. Leaving behind an incomplete primordial spirit and a corporeal body, which will be squeezed by the beast taming school to produce negative emotions to refine the beast taming collar. I thought that since I'm going to die sooner or later, I might as well let them die in my stomach. That way I can reincarnate in the future." Wang Lu nodded to show his understanding. This Zen master guru was obviously not a dog lover. Killing these thousands of spirit dogs, freeing them, could be considered a good deed. As for how to deal with the corpses, obviously she wasn't kind enough to be willing to bury them. Thus, putting them in her stomach could be considered as passable. "I just pity those thousands of dogs that died in your stomach, how innocent they are." Xiaoqi angrily said, Hey, how do you teach your Lingjin school Chinese? Dying in your stomach and dying in your stomach are two different concepts. I'm sorry, but since the situation is like this, then I have no problem with it. This kind of heartless branch, indeed, the sooner they die, the sooner they'll be safe. For Wang Lu, since both sides had the same goal, and this senior Qingyang didn't have any intolerable flaws in her character, then both sides could cooperate happily. Good, I knew that the disciple that fellow Wang Wu accepted must also be a straightforward person. Wang Lu reserved his opinion on this. Having obtained Wang Lu's support, Xiaoqi was in a good mood. Turning his gaze, he saw the thousands of spirit dogs in the abyss of suffering and wiped his mouth. In order to celebrate our cooperation, why don't we have a good meal first? Then, just as he was about to break the array and plunder the corpses of those spirit dogs, Wang Lu was taken aback. Are you sure? Right here? So violent and direct? Facing Xiaoqi's complicated gaze, Wang Lu immediately explained, I mean, the last time Beastmaster School suffered such a big loss, it's impossible for them not to be vigilant and let you do it again. We sneaked all the way here. Although the process was smooth, it may be the result of the other side throwing a long line to catch a big fish. With that, in order to deepen his persuasiveness, Wang Lu also pulled Lu Li over. Xianer, I think we should withdraw now. Tell me about your intuition. Lu Li earnestly said, I agree with senior brother's point of view. If we continue, it may be dangerous. Xiaoqi's gaze became more complicated. Do you think a fool's judgment is convincing? I am not a fool. Lu Li softly but firmly protested, Master has taken me to do a test. Wang Lu snappily pressed her head. Shut up. Unfortunately, it was too late. In the end, Xiaoqi couldn't resist the temptation of good food. Ignoring Wang Lu and Lu Li's persuasion, he slightly opened his right hand and made a gesture with his 5 fingers. A mysterious spell quickly condensed, which drove the surrounding spiritual energy to change. However, at this time a sudden change occurred. The peaceful surrounding spiritual energy suddenly surged up. The surrounding mountains suddenly rose up, forming a natural cage trapping the several people inside. The surrounding mountain rock barrier blocked the sunlight, casting a heavy shadow. A sharp, slightly immature but no lack of hostility female voice echoed in the cage. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Sure enough, you guys came. Chapter 184. Xiaoqi tried to break the array and plunder the spirit dog. However, just as her spell was about to take shape, a strong change in the surrounding spiritual energy interrupted her spell. Xiaoqi frowned and withdrew her right hand. Then she heard a woman's voice reverberating in the valley. Zen Master Guru, you're really bold. You actually dare to come to my Grand Cloud Mountain. Don't you know this is a dead end? While speaking in the air, a slender figure appeared in their line of sight. That person was obviously the elder of the Grand Cloud Mountain division of the Beastmaster School. Through the teleportation array, he released an astonishing imposing manner as soon as he appeared. His enormous magical power was like a surging tide, surging and surging violently. It was like the tide contained a profound rhythm. With just this one move, he revealed his peak gold core stage cultivation level. Tisk, look at what you've done. You've provoked a question mark level old monster. Wang Lu helplessly sighed. His right hand has already reached into his mustard seed bag. Inside was a spirit sword heavenly talisman, which could, at the critical moment, ignore any imprisonment and directly send him back to the mountain. Its effect was simple, direct, and violent. In Wang Lu's view, it was as defying as the save point. It was his trump card as a professional adventurer. However, once he used this trump card, his professional adventurer's reputation would be smashed by half. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not consider it. However, in the face of a peak-level King Pill opponent, if he didn't use it, he would die. If not for the unfathomable Zen Master Guru by his side, he would have immediately activated the heavenly talisman and brought Lu Li back to the mountain to take refuge. He simply couldn't let a peak-level King Pill person make the first move. Humph, what's there to be afraid of? It's just a mere peak-level King Pill. Senior Xiaoqi curled her lips in disdain. Wang Lu finally made up his mind, thinking, sure enough, she's my master's friend, so her strength is very high. A mere peak-level King Pill is an insurmountable peak for a middle-level foundation establishment cultivator, but for a senior, it's just a novice village guard. Looking at the slender figure in the air again, Wang Lu couldn't help but exclaim, Catwoman? It turned out that the Beastmaster School elder who appeared to suppress the scene was actually a cat-eared girl. She seemed to be only 12 or 13 years old, even more immature than Lu Li. The two furry ears on her head were exceptionally quick-witted, and there were several strands of whiskers on her cheeks that constantly trembled along with the girl's mouth opening and closing when she spoke. There were also the sharp nails on both of her hands, all of which showed the inhuman characteristics. Most likely it really wasn't a human cultivator but a spirit cat. This kind of situation wasn't rare in the beast taming school. Once a spirit beast reached a certain level of cultivation, it could become a regular cultivator of the school and enjoy all the rights and privileges. However, it would be difficult for it to be promoted to the senior management level. However, the elders of the branch established in the Cloud State were not high-level managers. At the same time, looking at the cat-eared girl, Wang Lu also understood the hardships of the thousands of spirit hounds in the kernel. It was the law of heaven and earth that cats and dogs did not conform to each other. Letting a spirit cat serve as the elder of the branch, naturally, the spirit hounds around the Grand Cloud Mountain would have a hard time. If it were jackals, wolves, tigers, leopards and the like which needed a lot of fresh meat to maintain their nutrition, the creatures of the entire Grand Cloud Mountain would bear enormous pressure. However, the cat-eared girl who appeared in the air didn't expect that under the pressure of her King Pill's imposing manner, there would actually be someone who dared to be absent-minded. In her eyes, Zen Master Guru was already no different than a dead person, and then turned to Wang Lu and Lu Li. The few of you have been trapped by my beast taming school's 5 mountain broken veins great array. No matter how big your means are, don't even think about escaping. Zen Master Guru is a dead end, but my beast taming school is merciful. You two are accomplices. If you immediately surrender and hand over the spirit hounds, I can spare your lives. The cat-eared girl tried to make her imposing manner appear majestic and awe-inspiring. However, that sharp childish voice made her words seem somewhat ridiculous. Of course, under the peak-level magical power fluctuation of King Pill, only a few people could laugh out loud. However, as a professional adventurer, Wang Lu was most disgusted by this kind of unskilled threat. Inwardly, he was sick of it, so he retorted sarcastically, "Cat girl, if you change into a maid costume and serve us tea, we can spare your life. Otherwise, my martial uncle Zen Master Guru will definitely catch you and cook you as a side dish to go with the wine." Presumptuous. The cat-eared girl issued a sharp and ear-piercing roar. Her voice was like a tide, causing the sky to shake and the earth to shake. It was as if an invisible blade wind blew in the air, causing the surrounding rocks to rustle and the trees to fall one after another. And this was just the aftermath. The main power of the scream was concentrated on Xiaoqi. Although the one who provoked her was Wang Lu, how could she put a middle-level foundation establishment cultivator in her eyes? She had been cultivating for 300 years, transforming her spirit beast body into a human, using the secret method of beast taming school to wash away her demonic energy and turn it into a righteous magical power. Now, King Pill was at the peak level, Yuanying was just around the corner. Foundation establishment cultivators were like ants to her. Only the unfathomable Zen Master Guru was a bit of a threat to her. This scream was the full power of Taoist King Pill. Wang Lu, who was standing next to Xiaoqi, was only affected by the aftermath. He also felt that his non-phase sword defense was showing signs of collapse. His whole body's magical power surged along with the sound waves, somewhat out of control. Even his non-phase sword bone was shaken and cracked. Fortunately, the defensive and life-saving ability of non-phase method was really heaven-defying. His primordial spirit, which was condensed into an intangible body, was protected by both his physical body and magical power, so it was barely not injured and could still maintain the operation of non-phase method. As for Senior 7th Madam, who was in the main battlefield, Humph. Accompanied by a cold Humph, this finely dressed woman took 3 steps back and made a series of hand seals. Dozens of spells condensed and then broke in front of her, as if blooming gorgeous fireworks. Just as Wang Lu was curious about what kind of trick she was playing, he saw Senior 7th Madam's complexion finally changed, and then, she spurted out a big mouthful of blood. Was this the blood shadow divine skill, spraying blood to injure the enemy? However, looking at her pale face, it was obvious that her injury was not light. Wang Lu had to admit the tragic reality. Zen Master Guru, your King deceiving me? Just now you shamelessly boasted that a mere peak King Pill cultivator was nothing to worry about, but in the blink of an eye, you spat out geraniums and got seriously injured? Aren't you Master's good friend? How could you be a friend if your strength is so weak? Don't tell me you're the friend who usually hugs Wang Wu's thigh and yells, "Expert, let's be friends"? Then, facing Wang Lu's contemptuous, angry and surprised eyes, 7th Madam struggled to open her mouth to defend herself. A mere Peking pill cultivator, if my real body was here, how could I let her be so arrogant? Unfortunately, I'm just an incarnation, so my skill is not enough. I don't care if you're the real body or the incarnation. If your skill is not enough, then just obediently kneel down. Don't pretend to be a master and trick your own people. However, seeing that the situation was getting worse, Wang Lu signaled Lu Li to come closer and reach out to hug him. At the same time, he walked slowly against the whistling sound and approached Xiao Qi's side, ready to launch the heavenly talisman to take her away from danger. It doesn't matter. I can't beat her, but if I want to run, she can't stop me. With that, a golden light shone from Xiao Qi's hand, and a thick and powerful Buddhist staff appeared in his hand. Xiao Qi slammed the Buddhist staff on the ground and shouted, "All living beings are equal." Suddenly the mountains were shaken. The mountain barrier that was forcibly pulled up by the 5 mountain broken veins technique was forcibly pressed down in front of this all living beings equal spell. The originally unbreakable cage suddenly disintegrated. The cat-eared girl was taken aback. She didn't expect that the impregnable array would be so easily destroyed. However, she soon realized the problem. It was the Buddhist staff in the hands of Zen Master Guru. The essence was restrained, the magical power was self-generated, and the power was agile, just like a living creature. This was a spiritual treasure, without a doubt, a middle-rank spiritual treasure. For ordinary sects, a low-rank spiritual treasure was enough to make king pill cultivators fight until their heads bled. As a high-rank sect, the beast-taming school situation was naturally much better. Generally, high-rank king pill cultivators mostly had spiritual treasures on them. However, this cat-eared girl was, after all, a spiritual beast in human form. She consumed too much energy when she transformed. She only had 2 life-bound magical treasures in her hands. She was still far from a spiritual treasure, let alone a middle-rank spiritual treasure. No wonder she was able to escape so easily after stealing the spiritual dog last time. It turned out that she had such a good treasure. The cat-eared girl's eyes became hot. 2 sharp teeth protruded from the corners of her lips, and her pupils contracted, revealing her hunter's instinct. Unfortunately, it was still a bit too late. As soon as Xiao Qi's Buddhist staff came out, the 5 mountain broken veins technique was broken. In the next moment she shouted, "Please open the door of convenience." Thus, a half-real, half-illusory door expanded from the tip of the Buddhist staff. Xiao Qi held the staff in his right hand, and his left hand pulled Wang Lu and took a step forward. Although it was just one step, it just crossed the door of convenience. The next moment they were already outside the Grand Cloud Mountain. After escaping from the predicament of the Grand Cloud Mountain, before Xiao Qi's feet landed on the ground, she looked back and saw Wang Lu holding the sword of Mount Kuan in one hand, Lu Li in the other, and a smart mottled dog hanging on his leg. This group of people really ran away. Thus Xiao Qi's heart calmed down. She directly lay down on the ground, gasping for breath. Just now, she had to take the cat-eared girl's scream, so her internal injury was not light. However, her cultivation method was quite mysterious, so she quickly calmed down the disordered magical power in her body. The Buddhist staff in her right hand also emitted a faint light, helping her to heal her injury. Hehe, what do you think? Thrilling and exciting, right? Your method of changing the topic to avoid embarrassment is really poor. Wang Lu mercilessly exposed her. Haha, just a moment ago you're still boasting shamelessly, arrogantly looking down on people, but the next moment, you've been seriously injured and have to flee in panic. You're a proper villain template. Xiao Qi's face turned red. Alas, a momentary slip, just a momentary slip. Even a wise man would make a mistake. Let alone if my real body was here, I could kill her with just a finger. Therefore, a momentary carelessness is excusable. The problem is your real body isn't here. What do you mean by your so-called avatar and real body? Is your real body referring to that Buddhist staff? It was rare for Wang Lu to take the initiative to change the topic, so Xiao Qi immediately explained, "Of course not, the so-called real body. Hey, didn't you teach it in Lingjian school? Among the several ways to advance from Yuaning to deity stage, one of them is to refine the avatar, divide the primordial spirit, and wait for the avatar to advance to Yuaning, and then combine the avatar into one, breaking through the barrier in one fell swoop." Wang Lu said, "I've taught it, but I really can't associate your appearance with a peak Yuaning stage expert." For example, Shengjing sect was known as the leader of the Wanxian League, but didn't they have Taoist Master Jifeng in the Blue River region? In the Southern Heaven region, the actions of the Beast Master School were sometimes 100 times more intense than this. There were even some cultivators who, because mortals ate the forbidden meat, that is, the meat of their beloved spirit beasts, would kill them and even exterminate their entire clan. It was an out-and-out demonic path. But so what? The cultivator who killed them would simply apologize and go into seclusion for a few years. After that, the matter would be considered settled. No one would feel that there was a problem with that. Even the wisdom sect that was founded by Wang Lu, although it was now on the right track and appeared to be a lot more formal, but in the initial capital accumulation stage, using the burning blood technique to activate the skill was still an undeniable fact. This kind of thing was common in the immortal cultivation world, but conversely, because of this kind of thing, it was also normal. When Taoist Master Jifeng met Wang Wu, his years of painstaking effort were all for naught. Wang Lu's wisdom sect's luck was a bit better. At the beginning of its development, it didn't encounter any senior expert who came forward to meddle in its business. If it did, Wang Lu could only think of a way to deal with that senior. Now Wang Lu really wanted to meddle in this matter on the Grand Cloud Mountain. He wasn't a senior expert, but he didn't necessarily need to have the means of a senior expert to meddle in this matter. Speaking of which, the Beast Master School collects spirit dogs to refine spiritual treasures in order to catch the young immortal beast. What exactly is the origin of that immortal beast? Xiaoqi said, it's not clear. At present no one knows. Even the Beast Master School can only judge its level, which is roughly equivalent to a peak Shudan stage cultivator, and can't distinguish its breed. However, most of the immortal beasts in this world are unique. Why, are you interested? Of course, isn't it obvious? Wang Lu smiled and then turned his head to point at the distant Grand Cloud Mountain. Beast Master School has been operating here for a year, changing the feng shui line, setting up the spirit pool and setting up the array. How much would it cost? Xiaoqi calculated. Not counting the manpower, about 1 or 2 million spirit stones should be enough. Yes, this Grand Cloud Mountain hasn't been operating for a long time, so the investment isn't much. Therefore, even if it's leveled, it's not a big deal. But how much is the value of a young immortal beast? Xiaoqi was startled, and then he said with a smile, then it's a priceless treasure. The stage of a real immortal beast was almost beyond the upper limit of the immortal cultivation world of 9 regions, equivalent to a true immortal from the upper realm. For example, the current leader of the Wanxian League, Hichu Daoren, was 1 level higher. In the past, when a 9-tailed fox came to Spirit Sword Mountain, the 5 uniques of the Wanxian League had to use their trump card sealing method to barely suppress it. Thus, its high value was naturally not difficult to imagine. If it was a quasi-immortal beast like Fenrir, the value of a young immortal beast could at least be in the hundreds of millions of spirit stones, but a genuine immortal beast could not be measured by spirit stones. Of course, the classification of Fenrir was more or less based on the discrimination of the 9 regions against the Western continent. It didn't necessarily mean that Fenrir's strength was not up to the standard of an immortal beast. However, after all, there was no actual example, so it was not convincing enough. The reason why Wang Lu raised the issue of immortal beast was naturally to make a fuss about it. Right now, the Beast Master School of the Grand Cloud Mountain was trying their best to catch the young immortal beast. Perhaps the spirit dog was not up to the standard of an immortal beast, but since the Beast Master School attached so much importance to it, it was like a well-placed target, so it would be a waste not to hit it. So what should we do? Xiaoqi completely gave up thinking and just waited for Wang Lu's order. Wang Lu bluntly said, there are 2 ways to do it. The first one is very simple. As long as the news of Beast Master School catching the young immortal beast is spread out, naturally, there will be a lot of trouble coming to our door. We just need to look on coldly from the sidelines, and then look for an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. It's easy and effortless. Xiaoqi clapped his hands. Oh, that's a good idea. But there's also a problem. The gimmick of the young immortal beast is too loud, and the Beast Master School as a high-rank sect has strong strength and a solid reputation, so they are determined to get it. Once the matter is made public, several Yuanying and deity stage cultivators will fly over from the Southern Heaven region to suppress the scene. If we want to fish in troubled waters, it will actually be more difficult than now. That makes sense. After all, it's the young immortal beast. Wang Lu said, so the second method is to quietly make a move so that the waste wood of the Beast Master School division can't react in time, and then it will become an established fact. Then, not to mention anything else, at least my Lingjian school's reputation can be used. Xiaoqi asked, an established fact? What do you mean? Because the Beast Master School hasn't caught the young immortal beast, so at present, it's still ownerless. In theory, it's first come, first served. Yunzhou is a chaotic place, and the Beast Master School hasn't established an unbreakable reputation on the Grand Cloud Mountain. At least, the Wanxian League hasn't withdrawn from this place, so the resources on this land, unless they get their hands on them, there's no such thing as an owner. Of course, this theory won't work on ordinary sections. The result of snatching food from the tiger's mouth will certainly be the Beast Master School coming to smash the place. But would they dare to come to the Lingjian School to find trouble? Xiaoqi's eyes lit up. He was very appreciative. I can't see that you've studied this set of rules very thoroughly. Humph, this is the necessary quality of a professional adventurer. Wang Lu was also not polite at all. So for the few of us, the operation is actually very simple. As long as we find the young immortal beast one step ahead of the Beast Master School, then I'll activate the heavenly talisman and return to the mountain to take refuge. No matter how big the grievances are, they can only cry, there's no place to reason. Xiaoqi became more and more excited. Well said, but how are we going to find the young immortal beast? As far as I know, although it's not strong, it has a special ability that makes the professionals of the Beast Master School unable to do anything to it. That's why they have no choice but to seek help from the Spirit Treasure Animal Taming Collar. If it's so easy to find, the Beast Master School wouldn't have set up such an inhumane formation like the Life Energy Gathering Formation. Well, we'll have to depend on it. As Wang Lu said this, he used his foot to kick the stupid dog. In any case, it's a quasi-immortal beast, it should have the ability to find a companion, right? Xiaoqi was stunned. Resonance? Yes, I've seen it in the books. The higher the level of the spirit beast, the easier it is for them to resonate with each other. For example, if an ancient treasure is born, the nearby spirit treasures may respond. Although this stupid dog is stupid, it's still a quasi-immortal beast, so it should have the ability to resonate, right? Oh. Xiaoqi looked uncertainly at the stupid dog Yawu, who was scratching its head with its foot. Are you sure this guy can? It doesn't matter. If we can't find it, we won't give it food. It definitely can. Woof? Feeling the impending crisis, the stupid dog became unprecedentedly nervous. Its pair of dog eyes were perfectly round, and its nose was twitching intensely, sniffing non-stop. This kind of pretense was just like a speech at a meeting. No one took it seriously. Even Xiaoqi, who was familiar with the habits of dogs, only laughed and said, "This animal is quite clever." However, the next moment Xiaoqi's smile froze. Yawu spoke in human language. "Don't say it, I think I really have a feeling." Xiaoqi was simply indescribably amazed. "It can talk?" Wang Lu was also indescribably amazed. "Isn't this new? It's not like it's a meat dog." Yawu ignored the two people. Chapter 186. When Wang Lu made up his mind to personally traverse the 1,000-li radius of the Grand Cloud Mountain and find the legendary young immortal beast a step ahead, on top of the Grand Cloud Mountain's forgotten peak, a group of Beast Master School Division elders were experiencing an unforgettable lightning tribulation. The forgotten peak of the Grand Cloud Mountain was the highest peak within a 1,000-li radius, overlooking the surroundings. And on the summit, there was originally a Taoist temple built by the cultivators of the White Dragon Temple, but it had been demolished by the Beast Master School and replaced with a gray palace built with mountain stones. It looked far more rough and fierce than the previous building. However, this palace, which was built and reinforced by a secret method, was trembling amidst the bursts of roars. Large and small cracks appeared on its surface, and dust and gravel rustled down, as if it could collapse at any time. "You two useless pieces of trash." And in the palace, a cat-eared girl with a defeated expression was kneeling in the middle. Next to her was a sturdy, half-naked man with battle scars on his skin. The two people were bombarded by the roars in the palace. They were on the verge of collapse, and blood overflowed from the 7 apertures of their heads. The cat-eared girl's cultivation was far higher than Chi-Ho's, but the pressure she was under was also thousands of times heavier, and she was already overwhelmed. And sitting on the chief seat, the one who emitted the rolling thunder was a valiant cultivator with a body even more sturdy than Chi-Ho. On his thick neck was a tiger's head. This was the great elder of this place, a nascent soul Taoist master, Tiger King Lei Zhen. This tiger-headed great elder was not a spirit beast, but a pure-blooded human cultivator. It was just that when he reached the nascent soul realm, he chose to permanently transform his body. Although he no longer had the appearance of a human, he had the magical abilities of a spirit beast. Today this tiger's thunder roar was one of them. With a nascent soul-level cultivation, even a peak king pill cultivator would not be able to withstand the thunder roar. Its power was more than 10 times stronger than the cat-eared girl's scream in the kernel. If not for the fact that this tiger king had no intention to kill, the 11 elders in the palace would not have left a single one alive. And the people present also knew that although Tiger King was furious, he did not have any killing intent. They all raised their cultivation to resist, waiting for Tiger King's anger to dissipate a bit before discussing business. Not long after, the sound of thunder gradually subsided, and everyone felt relieved. However, Tiger King's cold snort made everyone's heart skip a beat again. It has been more than a year since we came here from the Southern Heaven region. Everyone here is a Taoist master of the King Pill. 1 year is not a long time, but during this period our investment is by no means small. Including me, more than half of the people here have encountered a bottleneck in their cultivation and need to go into closed-door cultivation as soon as possible. However, for the sake of the sect's grand plan, no one has relaxed for more than a year, not even for a moment. We started from scratch and the sect didn't give us much support. Every brick and tile in this mountain was built by us and it cost us a lot. Under his high chair, the 2 rows of elders sitting in front of him secretly nodded. More than 1 year, when they were in the Southern Heaven region, they had made a long-term plan for this matter. Counting those, everyone's investment has been difficult to estimate. Everything we have done has not been in vain. Our group of people came from afar, and in a year's time, we have laid our foundation here. Within a radius of 500 miles around the Grand Cloud Mountain, including the original owner of the White Dragon Temple, as well as more than 10 other large and small immortal cultivation forces, they have all been expelled by us. This mountain can now be said to be in the palm of our hands. Hearing this, the complexion of the 2 rows of elders sank. However, for the next 6 months, we can't even control this small area in the palm of our hands. That beast is hiding in the Grand Cloud Mountain, but we can't even find its shadow. 3 months ago when the sect's messenger came, can you guess what he said? The elders didn't need to guess. As long as they looked at Tiger King's gloomy face, they knew that those people from the Southern Heaven region absolutely didn't have any good words. I don't want to repeat those words. That day the messenger spoke rudely, so I have personally twisted his chin. The elders turned pale with fright. 3 months ago that messenger was the sovereign's favorite person. The elders on the Grand Cloud Mountain have been given the cold shoulder by the sect. Now wouldn't it be? Since 5 years ago when we learned about the moon spirit of the Grand Cloud Mountain, everything we have done has been for it. Since we have walked this road until now we have no way out. No matter what difficulties we encounter, whether it is the Southern Heaven region's hindrance, whether that moon spirit has a new magical ability, or whether it is that bastard Zen Master Guru blocking our way, the only thing we have to do is to crush all these problems. For this we have to do it by hook or by crook at all costs. Tiger King said and fiercely clenched his fist. Unexpectedly, he squeezed the air and made a deafening explosion sound. Ling Yin, you have always been responsible for Zen Master Guru's matter. This time it was also your mistake that let him run away. Now that we are in need of people, I will give you the opportunity to redeem yourself. You have to personally catch that bastard. The cat-eared girl hastily nodded her head to express her gratitude, but her quick-witted eyes also revealed a trace of doubt. In terms of cultivation, the middle-level King Pill Zen Master Guru naturally couldn't be compared with her, who was at the peak of the King Pill. However, the other party's cultivation method was brilliant, his background was deep, and his comprehensive strength was not much different from hers. That day, if she wasn't inside the Beast Master School's array, the cat-eared girl actually didn't have full confidence that she could defeat the opponent. Not to mention that Zen Master Guru also had a middle-level spiritual treasure in his hand, which was enough to reverse the situation of strength and weakness. Now, Tiger King wanted her to redeem herself by capturing Zen Master Guru, but if she really went to his door, it would be strange if she didn't use her Buddhist staff to beat her brains out. Tiger King glanced at her and coldly said, "What? Do you think it's difficult?" No, this subordinate doesn't dare. The cat-eared girl's cold sweat poured down, and her body trembled like a sieve. Humph, that dog bastard's cultivation is not high, but she has a good treasure in her hand. You're alone, so you're indeed not her opponent. However, I won't let you die in vain, so I'll lend you a person. The cat-eared girl's heart was startled, and then immediately became happy. The cultivation of this Tiger King's 4 spirit beasts was not inferior to hers, and each of them had their own magical abilities. They were a rare and powerful partner. If she really had the help of those 4 spirit beasts, dealing with Zen Master Guru and those two small fries would be an easy matter. Well, come in. Following Tiger King's call, a person came from the back of the hall. This person had the smell of the southern heaven region, so it was obvious that he was the reinforcement that Tiger King had just called from the headquarters. However, as soon as this person appeared, the cat-eared girl, Ling Yan, was dumbfounded as if she was struck by lightning. How could it be him? Looking at the middle-aged cultivator who respectfully saluted Tiger King with a gentle smile on his face, Ling Yan's body involuntarily began to tremble. Her skin felt a tingling sensation and her heart was aching. She couldn't help but recall the cruel past. Today, Ling Yan has successfully transformed. Although a small part of her body still had the characteristics of a spirit beast, she was still a cultivator of the Beast Master School, enjoying all the treatment of human cultivators. However, before that, she was just an ordinary spirit beast of the Beast Master School. She was captured by the cultivators from the Barren Mountain, and after undergoing harsh training, she learned the rules of the human world. And at that time, the one responsible for training her was the brown-skinned cultivator before her. Beast Trainer Asia. Ling Yan. It's been a long time. In the face of that friendly smiling face, Ling Yan's whole body trembled and she took a few steps back. In the past, whenever Xia revealed such a smile, it meant the beginning of the pain. Seeing this abnormality, Tiger King frowned. I heard that in the Southern Heaven region, the two of you have the fate of master and disciple. You should know each other very well and have a tacit understanding with each other. In the past, the efficiency of your cooperation was also good, so I called him here. Ling Yan, do you have a problem? Ling Yan's eyes widened. She wanted to open her mouth, but being stared at by Tiger King's impatient eyes, she was unable to say anything. Perhaps Tiger King knew something about the past, but he didn't care. As he said, the two of them had the fate of master and disciple, so they had a tacit understanding with each other, and their efficiency was indeed good. If one didn't consider the pain that Ling Yan had experienced, they were indeed a perfect partner. As for Ling Yan's pain, did Tiger King need to care? I have no problem. Ling Yan clenched her fists, constantly telling herself in her heart, I am no longer the original me. Now that I am at the peak of King Pill, I don't need to be afraid of a mere middle-level King Pill Asia. Asia has been cultivating for more than 200 years, yet he still couldn't go any further. He is far inferior to me. However, while she was thinking, Asia's voice suddenly came from behind her. It's only been 30 years since we last met, but you're already a powerhouse at the peak of King Pill. What an enviable good root. While speaking, a few ice-cold fingers quietly rested on the back of Ling Yan's neck. A cold and gloomy energy suddenly spread out, as if it wanted to freeze her entire jade mansion. Ling Yan turned pale with fright. Just as she was about to summon her magical power to resist, that force disappeared without a trace. And Asia himself, from the beginning to the end, stood beside Tiger King, not moving even half a step. Beads of cold sweat dripped down from the girl's head. Her heart was in a mess. However, at this time, no one would pay attention to her abnormal state. Tiger King arranged the matter of Zen Master Dog Meat, and then began to arrange for everyone to continue to arrange the array formation on the Grand Cloud Mountain, and to refine the spirit treasure in order to capture the immortal beast Moon Spirit. Everyone held their breath, not daring to miss even the slightest detail. It was now approaching the 7th month, and the critical moment was getting closer and closer. Tiger King's task arrangement was getting tighter and tighter, so no one had the leisure to pay attention to other people's situation. After a long time, after Tiger King had arranged everyone's task, the present elders left one after another. However, there was one person who stayed in the hall with a pale complexion. That person was Chi Ho.